Alright, and we should be live. Hello everybody, it is the Dark Conservatarian, and see how the stream health is doing right now.
My name is Janet Brown. I'm Executive Director of the Commission on Presidential Debates, and I'd like to welcome you to the first presidential debate of 2020. There are a lot of people who have made extraordinary contributions to making this evening possible. And in a few moments, you will hear from two of our co-chairs to start the appreciation to those who have helped. Our third co-chair, Dot Ridings, is in Louisville, Kentucky tonight. Her leadership in debates goes back to 1976 and includes the presidency of the League of Women Voters. CPD is the beneficiary of 33 years worth of people who have been willing to put their name on our work. To all of those former presidents and chancellors of debate sites, to former moderators, to members of our Debates International.
Alright. Seems that I am getting a steady connection right here. I'm just waiting for a little bit more guests to arrive for starters. And I'm gonna share this out in the Discord actually. Actually, speak of the devil, I think I have a guest right now. Oh, what do you know? We have on ourselves My Two Cents. Hello, My Two Cents. 2 cents? Oh, wait, I forgot that I had muted myself in StreamYard. Hello, My Two Cents. You there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, just you couldn't hear me. I forgot to unmute myself from StreamYard.
Okay, no problem.
But yeah, the official debate hasn't started yet. It seems that they're just doing some quick announcements. But yeah, glad that you could join on.
Okay, awesome. Here, are we live yet?
Actually, we are live. I said that I was planning on going live, freaking, at 7:45 p.m. Central Standard Time.
Okay, awesome. I was only asking because at the top of my screen it says private call.
Yeah, I'm actually streaming via OBS. Everyone.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yep. I'll send you the link if you'd like me to. Well, actually, I'm gonna tag everyone on my Discord so you can see it there if you'd like.
Okay, awesome.
Yep. So there's that, and you know what? Why not? I'm gonna go ahead and shill it in freaking Bearing's Discord that I just recently joined as well.
Okay, I'll go ahead and tweet it out. Tweet the link out and everything too.
Awesome. And hello, Reckless Trucker. Nice for you to join on.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep, we can, and we're also getting a whole lot of reverb, just FYI.
Yeah, sorry about that. I lost my headset and other stuff because I'm actually at a friend's house.
Oh, okay. Well, nobody mandated that you had to come over. In fact, this live stream might go on a whole lot longer. It might go longer than 9 p.m. when the debate is projected to end, because I'm planning on us giving our own commentary during the debate if we feel like we have to.
All right. Seeing as the debate has not yet started, I'm gonna quick grab a cup of tea. I'll be right back.
All right, that's cool. What are you saying, Trucker?
Yeah, real quick, man. I won't be able to join you. I'm really sorry. After I told you I would. I don't have the equipment to do it. I only have my phone. I don't have a headset to avoid reverb, and I'm already drunk as fuck. me and some friends from the RGV Trump group are drunk as fuck to watch the debate at my dad's bar.
Well, hey,
I completely forgot. Well, real quick, I completely forgot. I'm really sorry. I've been working all day, and when you work hard, you forget things, and no excuses. I'm sorry.
I gotcha. Well, hey, if you want, I could capture the entire reaction of everybody there in the background that you're streaming with.
Right? Oh, you're gonna hear a lot of LOLs and drunkenness going on.
But oh well, if you feel like that you must leave, well then by all means, I'm not gonna oblige you to stay here.
Well, I won't be able to stop reverb, and I won't get a good signal because right now I'm sitting right next to the Wi-Fi in my dad's place, and my dad's Wi-Fi fucking sucks.
Oh, all right.
you know, and the area that it's in is in the way of customers and everything else, and I can't do that at a bar. And I also can't drive home right now because I'm drunk.
I gotcha. Well, go ahead and go ahead and watch it afterwards, I guess. And by the way, hello there, memes of destruction in the live chat. I sent the link. Holy shit, that background noise right there, trucker. But anyway.
I know. I'm sorry, but I gotta go. I'm sorry, man.
It's alright. Just don't let it happen again, reckless fucker.
Fair enough. Alright, I love you, Darky.
I love you too, faggot. Alright, so, dude, the Navy thing is work hard and party hard, says, Daniel Hempel in the chat. Yeah, I suppose so. That's pretty much my motto, too. Work hard and party hard, or work hard and play hard, more specifically. But anyway, as I was trying to say a little bit earlier, over the reverb that Trucker's mic was giving me, memes of destruction, since you're in the live chat there, this is out to you. Like, I sent the link to Hangout to, like, watch this and commentate on this with me live on stream to both the Strike Force discussion group chat on Twitter and on Discord. So if you want to join, by all means, anytime, just shoot on over to one of those group chats and click on the link. Just join in whenever you feel ready, memes of destruction. Alright, sup. I don't mind listening to this potential train wreck of a debate. Won't be commenting too much since I'm playing video games right now, says JC. Oh, that's fair enough. As long as you're giving the view time to the live stream, that's all that matters. No, in all seriousness, I love all the commentary that my audience likes to give me. But in all seriousness, it's minutes watched from your audience that really contributes to the algorithm more than anything. But yeah. So, if anybody has any questions or whatnot. So, everybody in the live chat, if I may ask, just out of curiosity, are you supporting Biden or Trump or neither? Or who are you supporting for president? Just poise that question out there.
Now I would call your attention to the commission-sponsored Debate Watch 2020 and the participation by watch groups in all 50 states. From a hair salon owner in Cleveland Heights hosting 10 employees to the Atlantic Council hosting a global audience for more than 80,000.
Well, I know that you were fond of Tulsi, memes of destruction, but unfortunately she did not win the Democratic nomination, so that kind of makes you run out of your options unless Tulsi Gabbard is running third party in the presidential election. If that's the case, well then, good for you. But since Tulsi Gabbard is not running as of right now, as far as I know anyways, who would you say that you support, memes? Love to join, brother, but grabbing dinner and hitting the hay. Oh, okay. Long day at work or something, memes? Neil Stone says, no one, I believe voting is illegitimate. Okay. I make no secret about who I'm gonna vote for. Nobody, says JC. Right? Yeah, what y'all should do is that y'all should vote for me for President of the United States. I will cut the EPA and OSHA and all the other meaningless bureaucracy, FDA, all that crap. I will obliterate the freaking minimum wage. I will nominate somebody to replace Ginsburg, who's of the more libertarian-ish variety, to the Supreme Court of the United States. And from that area, we will work on overturning Roe v. Wade and doing all the other legal processes to make this country go back to its former, more libertarian constitutional roots. Daniel Hempel says Trump. I think that's who he's saying that he's voting for. He's voting for Trump, even here in liberal San Francisco. Okay, I gotcha. Memes of Destruction says, ride it at the moment. 4 a.m. comes quick. Okay. I guess I think he might be referring to his work schedule. I'm not exactly certain. And my 2 cents looks like he hasn't returned yet so far. And Greathound says, nobody. If voting actually changed something, it would have been illegal.
I'm back.
Oh, no, hello, 2 cents.
Yeah, sorry, gotta stay hydrated. I know this is gonna be a long debate.
Yup. It's gonna be 1 hour worth of content that we're going to be watching and mostly reacting to, but possibly also giving our commentary on. But we'll try to make the commentary on each thing that they say just rather brief, or as brief as possible.
Now, it's my understanding that Joe Biden asked for a half-an-hour break every half an hour, and that was denied. So we'll see how much endurance the old man has.
Every half an hour? Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't this like just a 1 hour thing right here?
To be honest, I didn't look into how long it is.
Something out of curiosity. Now I'm going to look it up myself, just for the sake of checking ourselves, because I couldn't remember like it running for hardly anything longer than an hour. How long do presidential debates last? Quick fact check on that. Oh man, so many typos because I'm typing with gloves here, people. So, a curious question that I had asked the live chat a little bit earlier, my 2 cents, and I think I might know what your answer is on this, but who do you think that you'll be supporting for president, if anyone?
Okay, well, as you know, I'm an ANCAP, but I'm going to say this with all honesty. I support Donald Trump for president. You want to know why?
Why?
Because I want to watch the left go crazy and make fools of themselves again.
Okay, fair enough. So you're just going to be one of those popcorn munching crazies out there, kind of like the Michael Jackson meme. Or
Indeed.
GIF. 90 minutes is what the it's saying right here from Washington Post, which and so does CNN as well. So yeah, there is that answer to the question. Hello, DarkCon and my 2 cents, and hello there, sent 1000. It's my 2 cents, says Neil Stone. It is indeed, and hopefully we'll be having a few more guests too. Earlier we had Reckless Trucker, who was originally supposed to come on, but unfortunately he completely spaced out on this debate happening, or this debate review and reaction happening. Oh, and that's why I only type with fingerless gloves, says JC Armitage. Neil Stone, if I absolutely had to vote for someone, it would be Jorgensen. I see. I can't hardly get behind Jorgensen because she seems a little bit, just on the surface, she seems a little bit too squishy on the whole Black Lives Matter stuff. What's your take on that, my 2 cents?
I'll be perfectly honest, I haven't researched Jorgensen a lot, but I would agree that based on a lot of her material on Twitter, she seemed, at the very least, unwilling to condemn BLM riots. So.
Damn.
I mean, honestly, I feel like the Libertarian Party is irredeemable at this point.
I gotcha.
For better or for worse, I mean, obviously, as a Libertarian, I don't think Libertarians in general are irredeemable, but I think the Libertarian Party has just developed too much a reputation for being the pandering to the pot-smoking types. And, you know, the socially liberal, economically conservative.
That trope.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I gotcha.
mean, I feel like the real libertarians who had more influence were the Ron Paul, Rand Paul types.
Yeah, indeed. And there's Chris Wallace right there, y'all. Joe Jorgensen on Black Lives Matter. Well, okay, I'm not going to open up that article because it was Reason.com, and ever since Reason did their defense of cuties, I kind of feel disgusted to ever click on a link of theirs again. National File, Independent Political Report. I'm trying to see exactly. I think, Also trying to like keep an eye out on the live chat to see how things are going, and I'm also trying to keep an eye out on that timer right there. Actually, I'm going to just play this audio while I'm looking up stuff. How come I can't hear it?
Okay, I can't hear it either, so.
1 second.
Support.
Okay, I do not know if that was intentional or not, but it seems that they have muted themselves. C-SPAN has muted their audio, folks, right now.
Here, let me pull up another window and see if I can get C-SPAN.
I don't know what is going on. No, I mean literally, I rewound the debate a little bit, or the live stream right here, and got some audio.
In case Western Reserve also learned from one another.
Yeah, you hear that? And then live again, no audio. What the heck is going on?
Yeah, I guess not. I'm on that. I got another tab open. I don't hear it either.
Damn.
Let's try. Let's see. Who else is streaming this?
I saw that CBS was streaming this debate. What the
ABC, CBS. Let's try ABC. Okay, I got volume for ABC.
All right. You know, I think I'll go ahead and switch over to ABC then. Well, actually, CBS is the first one that came up. I'm just going to go ahead and do that for right now.
All right.
Former Vice President.
Oh, y'all. That has a whole bunch of ads going on to try and present themselves.
Of course. Why wouldn't they?
Is ABC doing the same thing?
ABC? Oh yeah, they were on an ad.
Okay. Damn. Oh, here we go. ABC.
Okay, I think they're starting now.
All right.
Yeah, Stephanopoulos speaking.
You mind, Oh.
It's away now. Donald Trump and Joe Biden will take the stage for 90 minutes, 6 topics on the table. The big question, will the candidates do...
Is C-SPAN working now? Seems that C-SPAN is working now. It's just that C-SPAN was like the most recommended streamer for this debate, without getting like other people's commentary involved.
From the respective channels, news anchors. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, from the yeah, it was recommended by other people in Bearing's Discord server. C-SPAN muting themselves. Well, I guess we can like listen to some of the commentary while we're waiting, because I do not know. I don't have a whole lot to add.
Any of the top dozen most competitive battleground states.
Well, actually, there is one curious question. Where was it? Oh yeah, Greyhound 2. Nobody, if voting actually changed something, it would have been illegal. I mean, what's your opinion on that, my 2 cents? Because I don't quite agree with it. I just wanted to get your 2 cents, no pun intended, on that.
Okay, well, if anyone would like to go to my2centsvideos.com, I have an article called Why Government Elections Are a Farce. Basically, my opinion is that I think there is truth to the statement, but it's a little more dynamic than that. Does voting change things? I would say yes, enough to make people believe they're in control, not enough to actually give them real control. And I opened that here. You know what? I'm just going to pull up my own article so I can read. I think I said it very well in that article. But I have a quote from Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power that talks about putting people in the horns of a dilemma.
Mm-hmm.
And hang on, for some reason my phone is being really dumb. I just tried to click search and it sent me to the bottom of the page.
I think voting doesn't really change much nowadays, more because things are so gerrymandered and I guess one could say rigged in of the selections that people have and the way that their selective candidates work out in the end. But ultimately, I think I would go ahead and pose the assertion, at least. I do not know of how solid of a claim it is. I would at least pose the claim, though, that back during the original founding of this country, that voting did mean a little bit more of something.
Okay, all right, so I got my article up here. This is a quote from Robert Greene's the 48 Laws of Power, specifically Law 31. The best deceptions are the ones that seem to give the other person a choice. Your victims feel they are in control, but are actually your puppets. Give people options that come out in your favor, whichever one they choose. Force them to make the choice between the lesser of two evils, both of which serve your purpose. Put them on the horns of a dilemma. They are gored wherever they turn. No, so I'd say the whole thing with voting is you have a two-party system between the liberal and the conservative parties, both of which, but the irony being that they have to compromise with one another in order to get anything done. So in the long term, the conservatives end up conserving nothing and keep drifting towards the liberal side, in that every time they compromise, they end up conserving less and less. But when push comes to shove, the government always ends up acting in its own self-interest. And in that article, I document how, if you look at the entire history of the United States, it doesn't matter who controls the White House, it doesn't matter who controls Congress, two things always happen. The government grows in the size and scope of its authority, and government spending increases. And it makes perfect sense in that people, whether they're Republicans, whether they're Democrats, no matter who they are, when they achieve positions of power and they have this special authority that no one else has to initiate force against others, inevitably they end up using that power to better their own situation, which means accumulating more resources and power for themselves, and thus really do different politicians take different stances on this or that issue? Yes, but the government always wins.
Right.
No, despite conservatives being for small, limited government, when's the last time a conservative politician actually closed the doors of a federal agency because it was extraneous? When's the time conservatives notoriously cut taxes, but they never actually cut spending? So in the end, they just have to inflate the currency, and the effect might as well be the same. Are there differences between politicians? Yes, but there aren't differences in terms of outcome for government. No, there really aren't.
I understand. There's a chat comment here that I wanted to read up very quickly. JC Armitage says the state would never implement such a blatant mechanism that would be its undoing. I don't think that that's necessarily true, because that would assume if like the vast majority of people within a given society were interested in absolutely okay, I'm gonna pause that for a second. We'll get to the debate part as it's being presented here. There's Donald Trump. But yeah, just very quickly on that point, JC, I don't think that's totally true. It would only be true if like the vast majority of people within a given society where they could vote were anarchists who ultimately want to vote out the existence of government. But that's not necessarily true, as history has shown. So I don't see of how that holds water in that regard. And finishing her chat comment, voting is nothing more than a suggestion box for the slaves on the plantation of government. I'm going to just leave it right there for right now. Anyway, let's get on with this. The debate is started.
How you doing, man? How are you? I'm well.
Of course, everyone shake hands because it's the age of the Rona, y'all.
Better not catch it.
A lot of people have been waiting for this night, so let's get going. Our first subject is the Supreme Court. President Trump, you nominated Amy Coney Barrett over the weekend to succeed the late Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court. You say the Constitution is clear about your obligation and the Senate's to consider a nominee to the court. Vice President Biden, you say that this is an effort by the president and Republicans to jam through an appointment and what you call an abuse of power. My first question to both of you tonight: why are you right in the argument you make and your opponent wrong? And where do you think a Justice Barrett would take the court? President Trump, in this first segment, you go first. 2 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chris. I will tell you very simply, we won the election. Elections have consequences. We have the Senate, we have the White House, and we have a phenomenal nominee, respected by all, top academic, good in every way, In fact, some of her biggest endorsers are very liberal people from Notre Dame and other places. So
I wonder if he's actually going to get to the SCOTUS judge.
Even if we did
right, well, what I'll say here is that constitutionally speaking, he has every right to nominate a Supreme Court justice per the Constitution. So as for Biden, it's an abuse of power. Well, no, he does have the right to do that. Does he have an obligation? Depends on who you ask. But yes, he, as the president, if you read the Constitution, as the president, he does have the right.
Yeah, he has the right to propose a nominee, at least. As to whether or not the Senate will approve of that is a different story. But at the same time, yeah, I would agree that he's not necessarily obligated, constitutionally speaking, to do so.
A lot of time after the election, as you know. So I think that she will be outstanding. She's going to be as good as anybody that has served on that court. We really feel that. We have a professor at Notre Dame, highly respected by all, said she's the single greatest student he's ever had. He's been a professor for a long time at a great school. And we won the election, and therefore we have the right to choose her. And very few people knowingly would say otherwise. And by the way, the Democrats, they wouldn't even think about not doing it. If they had, the only difference is they'd try and do it faster.
Now, he's right on that
would
point.
give it up. They had Merrick Garland.
If the shoe were on the other foot, they absolutely would be trying to jam another nominee through.
Right. And by the way, if in continuing of respond to the debate and you want me to pause for you to fully make your point, then by all means ask me to pause.
All right, we'll do.
The election, so they were stopped. And probably that would happen in reverse also. Definitely would happen in reverse. So we won the election, and we have the right to do it, Chris.
President Trump, thank you. Same question to you, Vice President Biden. You have 2 minutes.
Well, first of all, thank you for doing this, and looking forward to this, Mr. President.
Thank you, Joe.
The American people
Trump actually being mannerly.
have a right to have a say who the Supreme Court nominee is. And that say occurs when they vote for a United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States. They're not going to get that chance now because we're in the middle of an election already. The election has already started. Tens of thousands of people have already voted. And so the thing that should happen is we should wait. We should wait and see what the outcome of this election is, because that's the only way the American people get to express.
I'm going to be honest. I wonder if he actually believes that himself, or if he's just trying to flip Mitch McConnell's own logic onto Trump as far as what, you know, reflecting back on what Mitch McConnell did to Obama back in 2016.
Yeah, but the difference there is Obama may have had the White House. He didn't have the Senate. Republicans do control the Senate.
Right.
So, I mean, had Democrats controlled the Senate, Merrick Garland would have made it to the Supreme Court.
But he's kind of invoking the same logic that we're in the middle of an election. He's not necessarily saying that, you have the Senate, or you don't have the Senate, even though Trump actually does have the Senate. He's not making the point, you don't have the Senate, hypothetically speaking anyways, so therefore you cannot just push through your nominee as you please. No, he's saying along the same line of logic that Mitch McConnell was invoking, that we're in the middle of an election, so therefore let the people decide who they want in the White House, who will choose who the SCOTUS judge will be. So it was just a funny thing. I was wondering if Biden actually believes it, or if he's just pointing out hypocrisy on Republicans' parts, but we'll see in further.
Their view is by who they elect as president and who they elect as vice president. Now, what's at stake here is the president's made it clear he wants to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. He's been running on that, he ran on that, and he's been governing on that. He's in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which will strip 20 million people from having insurance, health insurance now, if it goes into court. And the justice, and I'm not opposed to the justice. She seems like a very fine person. But she's written before she went on the bench, which is her right, that she thinks that the Affordable Care Act is not constitutional. The other thing that's on the court, and if it's struck down, what happens? Women's rights are fundamentally changed. Once again, a woman could be pay more money because she has a pre-existing condition of pregnancy. They were able to charge a woman more for the same exact procedure a man gets. And that ended when we, in fact, passed the Affordable Care Act. And there's 100 million people who have pre-existing conditions, and they'll be taken away as well. Those pre-existing conditions, insurance.
Did he say 100 million? I don't know. It almost, for some reason, sounds hyperbolic to me. And and even if that really is true, that's not taking into account all the people who have conditions that they have, got after they had already got their health insurance plan. So if they have a pre-existing condition, even though it's not really pre-existing because they got the condition after they got their health care, just me speaking in the hypothetical here, then the fact that they have a pre-existing condition doesn't really matter because they already have the health care to cover it. So it just seems like phony logic or not so very good logic on Biden's part, in my opinion.
Yeah, 100 million, that's 1/3 of the population of the United States.
Yeah, that's the one thing that kind of makes me doubtful. But then again, it's not outside the realm of possibility if you take into consideration all elderly folk and all the younger people with diabetes and so on and so forth.
And correct me if I'm wrong, didn't Biden shift over to the whole Medicare for all side after Bernie dropped out of the race?
I don't know. I haven't heard of that one. I guess it's something I'll have to look up, and maybe hopefully they'll cover it when they get into the healthcare specifically. All right.
Companies are going to love this. And so it's just not appropriate to do this before this election. If he wins the election and the Senate is Democrat or Republican, then he goes forward. If not, we should wait until February. All right.
There aren't 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. As far as the say is concerned, the people already had their say. Okay, Justice Ginsburg said very powerfully, very strongly,
I would have liked for Trump to at least say, according to this organization, there are not 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. But at least he's trying to challenge that figure, but he's doing a rather sloppy job at it, at least in my opinion anyways.
At some point, 10 years ago or so, she said a president and the Senate is elected for a period of time, but a president's elected for 4 years. We're not elected for 3 years. I'm not elected for 3 years. So we have the Senate, we have a president.
He's elected to the next
during that period of time, we have an opening. I'm not elected for 3 years. I'm elected for 4 years. And the 100 million people, Joe, the 100 million people is totally.
It sounded like he said Jill and not Joe. Like, who do you think you're talking to? Jill Stein here? No, only joking. Were you about to say 2 cents?
I mean, on this point, I think my point stands. Per the Constitution, yes, Trump absolutely has the right. Does he have a moral obligation to do so? I wouldn't say so. Does he have a moral obligation not to do so? I wouldn't say so. I mean, he has the legal right to do so. God knows if the shoe were on the other foot, the Democrats would be doing the exact same thing. So I think, strictly from a legal standpoint, Trump is correct here. If you want to argue whether he should or shouldn't, I mean,
yeah.
Let's face it, Republicans think he should and Democrats think he shouldn't. The people who stand to benefit if he does think he should, and the people who stand to suffer if he does think he shouldn't.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to take this completely off.
So again, people act in their own self-interest.
Well, of course. Zachary Colley in the chat, vote Cthulhu. Yes, that's the equivalent of Giant Meteor 2020, right? Invoke the end of the world for 2020. Because as damn it, what's the name of the guys? H.P. Lovecraft. As the H.P. Lovecraftian lore goes, Cthulhu brings about the end of the world, and the Biden rule goes back to 92, says memes of destruction. What do you mean by the Biden rule, memes? Was the Biden rule, is that what you're referring to? Is that what Biden here is referring to when he says you have to wait until the end of the election to get somebody nominated for a SCOTUS judge? I'm not sure. I mean, because if that's the case, well then, yeah, I guess Biden does pretty much believe it. But so far, what I'm hearing in the actual debate being played here, what these two are saying, between what they're saying, it seems that Biden is almost espousing the logic, not just as a pointage of hypocrisy towards Republicans. Otherwise, he would have already came out and said, oh, my opponent here is being a hypocrite along with his party. No, it almost seems like he kind of believes it. I don't know, which you're right, 2 cents, in what you said that back in 2016, Obama did not have the Senate on his side. This year, Trump pretty much does have the Senate on his side, so it does not work quite in the same logic. But yeah,
wrong. I don't know where you got that number. The bigger problem that you have is that you're going to extinguish 180 million people with their private health care that they're very
That's
happy
simply
with.
not true.
Well, you're certainly going to socialists. You're going to
It
socialists.
was true when Obama said it wasn't true. Do you remember the "if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor" line?
Oh,
Rated
yeah.
as the lie of the year, but even Politico was forced to admit it was the lie of the year.
Oh yeah, and Politico is a kind of mainstream left organization, mainstream Democratic organization.
Gentlemen, we're now into open discussion.
Open discussion.
Open discussion. Yes, I agree. Go ahead, Vice President.
Number
Biden.
one, he knows that what I proposed. What I proposed is that we expand Obamacare and we increase it. We do not wipe any. And one of the big debates we had with 23 of my colleagues trying to win the nomination that I won, were saying that Biden wanted to allow people to have private insurance still. They can. They do. They will under my proposal.
It's not what you've said,
But
and it's not what your party has said.
That is simply
Your party
a lie.
doesn't say it. Your party
That is
wants to
simple.
go socialist
My
medicine
party is
and
me.
socialist
right
healthcare.
now, I am.
And
the-
Let him finish his point, Trump. I'm sorry, but I just want to hear Biden finish what he was gonna say. Come on.
I'm going to dominate
Party.
you, Joe. You know that.
I am the Democratic Party right now. The platform of the
I am the Democratic Party right now. That just reminds me of Palpatine's line, "I am the Senate." Chancellor Biden, everybody.
According
Democratic
to
Party
Harris.
is what I, in fact, approved of. What I approved of. Now, here's the deal. The deal is that it's going to wipe out pre-existing conditions. And by the way, the 200,000 people that have died on his watch, how many of those have survived? Well, there's 7 million people that contracted COVID. What does it mean for them going forward if you strike down the Affordable Care Act? And
Joe, you've had
pre-existing
300.
Well, not all of those people are going to become so deadly with their cases of COVID that they're going to need hospitalization. I mean, come on, Joe, get real. The hospitalization rate is like around 1%, I think. It's definitely lower than 5% from what I've last read. Go check out my response video to Phone Me the Squirrel on the coronavirus lockdowns to see what I specifically mean in that. But from what I recall, it's like around 1% hospitalization. So not all those 70 million or whatever number he said there are going to get hospitalized.
8,000 military people dying because you couldn't provide them proper health care in the military. So don't tell me
I'm
about
happy
this.
to talk about
And if you were here,
Look,
it
here's
wouldn't be
the deal.
200, it would be 2 million people because you were very late on the draw. You
Late
didn't
on
want
the
me to
draw.
ban China, which was heavily infected. You didn't want me to ban
All right, gentlemen,
Europe, which
no,
was heavily
Mr. President,
You would have
Mr.
been much
President,
later, Joe.
Mr. President,
much later.
Mr.
You're
President,
talking about 2 million people.
You're not gonna be able
President,
to
as
shut
the
him up.
moderator, we are going to talk about COVID in the next segment, but go ahead.
Let me finish. The point is that
Yes.
the president also is
Trump is
opposed
correct on
to
that
Roe
point.
v.
Biden
Wade.
didn't want to
That's
ban
on the
China back when Trump did.
ballot as well in the court. And so that's also at stake right now. And so the election is all
You don't know it's on the ballot. Why is it on the ballot?
Because
Chris said let him finish, Trump. Quit being a jackass. This is the biggest problem that I have with Trump, and this is the biggest problem that I had with Trump all the way back in 2016 with his first debate with Hillary, is that he kept on interrupting and just making himself look like a jackass. I mean, he wasn't winning really on the substance side of that debate either against Hillary, but right here, yeah, he's at least like having the same attitude as he did back then. Just not a good look, Trump. Just shut up.
Why is it on the ballot? It's not on the ballot.
it's on the ballot in the
I
court.
don't think so.
In the court. Well,
There's nothing happening there.
Donald, would you
And you
just be
don't
quiet
know
for a
her view on Roe v. Wade. You
I
don't know
don't
her
know.
view.
Well, all right. Let's talk. We got a lot to unpack here, gentlemen. We got a lot of time. So, on health care, and then we'll come back to Roe v. Wade.
All right.
Mr. President, the Supreme Court will hear a case a week after the election in which the Trump administration, along with 18 state attorneys general, are seeking to overturn
That's right.
Obamacare, to end Obamacare. You have spent the last...
Because they want to give good health care.
If I may ask my question, sir.
Good health care.
Over the last 4 years, you have promised to repeal and replace Obamacare, but you have never in these 4 years come up with a plan, a comprehensive plan
Yes,
to
I have.
replace Obamacare.
Of course I have.
Well,
I got rid of the individual mandate.
I'm going to give you an
Excuse me.
opportunity.
I got rid of the individual mandate, which was a big chunk of
comprehensive
That
plan.
is absolute.
And by the way, I just want to remind everybody that's one of the things I disagree with Trump and all the Trumpist Republicans on, is that they want to replace Obamacare instead of just flat out repealing it, which I'm of the more of that camp on. I'm more
Privatize healthcare.
Yeah, privatize healthcare. Exactly. Repeal Obamacare, no replacement.
A big thing. That was the worst part of Obamacare.
Sir.
Chris,
You're
that was the
debating him,
worst
not
part of
me.
Obama.
Let me ask my question.
Well, I'll ask Joe. The individual mandate was the most unpopular aspect of Obamacare. I got rid of it.
I'd like you
and we
to,
will protect
Mr.
people
President,
with
I'm the
pre-existing
moderator of this
conditions.
debate, and I would like you to let me ask my question, and then you can answer.
What an orange jackass. And I just want to say, like, I've never noticed of how freaking orange that Trump is, but just looking at in contrast of this shot right here, either Biden is like extra pasty or Trump is extra tanned. I don't know which is which. Could be a little bit of both for all I know.
You, in the course of these 4 years, have never come up with a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare, and just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump health care plan?
Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised. Let me just tell you something, that there's nothing symbolic.
Night Shift 10,000 in the chat. Hello there, Night Shift. Any old guy senility yet? Not quite yet, Night Shift. Although I did think that I saw at least one blank stare from Joe for a second there, but it wasn't anything considerable.
Drug prices, I'm going with favored nations, which no president has the courage to do because you're going against Big Pharma. Drug prices will be coming down 80 or 90%. You could have done it during your 47-year period in government, but you didn't do it. Nobody's done it. So we're cutting health care. All of the things that we've done, insulin, I give you an example, insulin, it was destroying families, destroying people, because I'm getting it for so cheap. It's like water, you want to know the truth. So cheap. Take a look at all of the drugs that...
Now, I don't know if that's quite true. I mean, I would definitely have to fact check on how cheap insulin is nowadays underneath the Trump administration.
This is the most ridiculous non-answer I've heard. It's really not that complicated. There's a limited supply of resources, but essentially unlimited demand for healthcare. The only way you fix it is to allow people to bid up the prices to determine what is most valuable to the people who actually want the healthcare. If you don't allow that to happen, you'll never adequately distribute the resources you have. That's why any government plan, whether it's Obamacare public option plan, whether it's a Medicare for all plan, whether it's something less than that the Republicans are going to churn out, it's not going to work.
Yeah, speaking of government plans on healthcare, Memes of Destruction in the chat said earlier, POTUS has a plan, Medicare for all, and I asked him, Trump wants Medicare for all, Memes, and he answers, didn't ask, I think he meant to say, didn't he ask on day one of healthcare negotiations, why don't we give everyone Medicare? Fact check us on that, my 2 cents. Did he say something along those lines?
All right, hang on.
Because I remember, like, during the campaign that he flirted with the idea of essentially Medicare for all. Probably not Bernie's exact plan on healthcare, but I do definitely remember him, like, floating those kinds of ideas around. But I don't remember if he proposed that, if he said that as soon as when he officially got inaugurated as president. I cannot remember if that was a thing or not.
First thing that came up is a CNBC article from January of 2018 saying Trump asked, why can't Medicare simply cover everybody before pushing Obamacare repeal? Trump asked aides, why can't Medicare simply cover everybody after getting elected president, according to new book.
Okay, well, if that really is a verbatim quote from Trump, that's rather ridiculous, Trump, because...
Okay, this was the book Fire and Fury by Michael Wolff. I know there was a great deal of controversy about that book when it came out.
Okay. Wait a minute. That's what the source is coming down to, is Michael Wolff's?
So yeah, the source for this is questionable at best.
Oh, okay. Well, then, yeah. We'll have to do some further research on that, Trump's evolving positions on Medicare for All. But if that really is a verbatim quote from Trump, it's ridiculous, because why can't everybody have Medicare before Obamacare is replaced or whatever? I mean, as soon as everybody gets Medicare, there's no more purpose for Obamacare, at least in the eyes of a sock dem like Bernie Sanders or anyone else along those lines. I mean, as soon as everybody has Medicare for All, there's not hardly any going back, unless a person really wants some privatized healthcare, but even that's kind of questionable. What were you about to say, 2 cents?
Well, the problem is, even in these socialist countries like Sweden and Denmark, where initially the plan was sort of universal health care only for the poor and everyone else could buy private health insurance. Well, when people saw what was seemingly free, nobody, even the ones who could afford it, went with the private health insurance, and private health insurance all but disappeared. I mean, the claim that private insurance can work alongside socialist medicine, I'd say the Nordic states are proof positive that's not true.
Mm-hmm. I see. Anyway, let's continue on.
We're doing prescription drug prices. We're going to allow our governors now to go to other countries to buy drugs because they pay just a tiny fraction.
As I say, this is open discussion.
No,
let me ask you about. You'll be happy.
Oh, geez, I'm going to stop the two jackasses from talking over each other. Well, actually, Trump is the bigger jackass, so just to be fair to Chris. But anyway, my Night Shift 10,000 says, "Holy shit! Hey, my 2 cents. How are you, bro?"
Yeah, doing pretty good.
All right. Yep. We're doing very snazzy on this fine evening of just watching two senile old men go at it with each other with another almost senile old man, that being Chris Wallace.
Sir, you'll be happy. I'm about to pick up on one of your points to ask the Vice President, which is he points out that you would like to add a public option to Obamacare, and
Yes.
the argument that he makes and other Republicans make is that that is going to end private insurance.
It is
and
not.
well, if I can ask you the question, it will
Not
end.
what your party says, by the way.
It will end private insurance and create a government takeover of health care.
It does not. It's only for those people who are so poor they qualify for Medicaid. They can get that free in most states, except governors who want to deny people who are poor Medicaid. Anyone who qualifies for Medicare would Medicaid would automatically be enrolled in the public option. The vast majority of the American people would still not be in that option, number one.
Joe, you agreed
two,
with Bernie Sanders, who's far left, on the manifesto, we call it, and that gives you socialized medicine.
Look, hey,
Are you saying
I'm not
you
going
didn't
to listen
agree?
to him. The fact of the matter is, I do.
I'm sorry, but props to Joe Biden right there. I'm not gonna listen to him. He says to Trump and is interrupting. I'm sorry, that was too good, people. But all the stuff that Biden is saying right here, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Medicaid for elderly people and Medicare is the one that's for younger but poor folks?
Yeah, Medicaid is essentially Medicare for the poor.
Oh wait, no, Medicaid.
Medicare is for seniors. Medicaid is basically a public option for those who are very, very poor.
Okay, I had it backwards, so that's my bad. Anyway.
Bernie Sanders.
Not by much.
I beat him a whole hell of a lot. I'm here standing facing you, old buddy.
Pocahontas would have left 2 days early. You would have lost every primary.
All he knows how to
on
do
Super
is hurt.
Tuesday. You got
Look,
very lucky.
here's the deal. I got very lucky. I'm going to get very lucky tonight as well. And tonight I'm going to make sure, because here's the deal. Here's the deal. The fact is that everything he's saying so far is simply a lie. I'm not here to call out his lies. Everybody knows he's a liar.
But you
I just want to make sure.
Well, you're not doing a very good job of stamping out those lies, even in the times of when that you're not getting interrupted by the orange baboon.
I want to make sure.
Graduated last in your class, not first in your class.
I want to make
Mr.
sure.
President, can you let him finish, sir?
No, he doesn't know how to do that. He has, you know,
surprised.
you picked
You'd be surprised.
the
Go ahead,
wrong
Jim.
guy, the wrong
Go,
night
Jim,
at the
go.
wrong time.
Listen, you agreed.
I'm sorry to all the Trump supporters who might in my fan base who might be watching, but I'm sorry. I just cannot help but laugh every time that Joe Biden makes this snarky remark at Trump's interruptions.
Biden's doing better than I thought he would, but we're not that far in yet.
Yep. So far, so good. But although I am going to say that Trump is, well, okay. There might not be a whole lot of facts to back up what Trump is saying, but on the substance side of things, of what's being laid out on the debate stage here, at least, that Trump seems to be doing a little bit better than Biden. At least that's in my opinion, anyways. On the manners and the cordiality of them two, Biden has definitely overtaken Trump on that front.
With
Here's
Bernie
the- I'd agree.
Sanders to the
The
manifesto.
whole idea.
let
Now
him-
you're disavowing it.
There is no manifesto. Number
Please
one.
let him speak, Mr.
Number
President.
two.
You just lost the left.
Number two.
You just lost the left. You agreed with Bernie Sanders on a plan.
Folks,
that's absolutely
folks,
agreed
do you have
to,
any
and under that
idea
plan,
what
you have
this
socialized.
Wait. He lost the left by agreeing with Bernie on a plan. I don't think that it necessarily holds water, Trump. I mean, if anything, if he was to like agree lockstep with Bernie, well, I don't know if he like fully agrees with Bernie on healthcare, Biden. I mean, but nonetheless, if the more and more that he agrees with Bernie on healthcare or any other issue, the more and more I think he's going to win the left, the hard left, the far left towards his side. But I digress nonetheless.
They call it
Mr.
You
Mr.
have any
President.
do?
socialized medicine.
Mr.
Well, I
President.
tell you what, he is not for any help for people needing health care because
Bernie?
because he in fact already has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of his recession. Number one. Number two, there are 20 million people.
That I'll have to say citation needed, but I'm just gonna leave it there for right now.
Getting health care through Obamacare now that he wants to take it away. He won't ever look you in the eye and say that's what he wants to do. Take it away.
No, I want to give
Number
them better
three.
health care at a much lower price
But-
because
and by the way,
Obamacare
he doesn't
is
know
no
how.
good.
He doesn't know how
I've
to do
already
that.
fixed it.
He has never
I've
offered
already
a
fixed
plan.
it to an extent.
He has never
Obamacare,
done a
as you
single
might
thing.
know, but probably don't. Obamacare
Gentlemen, you realize
is no
if you're
good,
both
Joe.
speaking at the
It's no
same
good,
time,
and it's too expensive.
let the president. Go ahead, sir.
Obamacare is no good. We made it better, and I had a choice to make very early on. We took away the individual mandate. We guarantee pre-existing conditions, but took away the individual mandate. Listen, this is the way it is. And that destroyed, that they shouldn't even call it Obamacare. Then I had a choice to make. Do I let my people run it really well or badly? If I run it badly, they'll probably blame him, but they'll blame me. But more importantly, I want to help people, okay? I said, you got to run it so well.
That's what he's
And I
known for.
just had a meeting with them. They said the problem is no matter how well you run Obamacare, it's a disaster. It's too expensive.
I got you.
Premiums
I
are
got
too
it.
high, and
That's
it
what his
doesn't work.
people- that's what
So
his people said.
we do want to get rid of it.
It's
Chris,
an
we
open
want to get rid of it.
I
and
understand
give
it, sir,
something
but I have
that's
to. I
cheaper
have to
and
give you
better.
roughly equal time.
Good.
Please let the vice president talk.
Good.
Very quickly addressing the chat just a little bit. Night Shift 10,000 says, but I'm looking for some good stuff on here. For what? For a video project up and coming, Night Shift? If so, well then I can't wait for that.
He has no plan for health care. Of
course we do.
He sends out wishful thinking. He has executive orders that have no power. He hasn't lowered drug costs for anybody. He's been promising a health care plan since he got
Night Shift says possibly to my question, by the way.
elected.
Executive
He has
orders with
not.
no power.
Like almost-
Obama used executive orders all the time.
Yep, precisely.
No, I happen to agree. Executive orders do not have the force of law, but Biden sure didn't think so when Obama was cutting them left and right.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else he talks about. He does not have a plan. He doesn't have a plan. And the fact is, this man doesn't know what he's talking about.
All right.
He's
I have
against
one final question for you,
Sure.
Mr. Vice President. If Senate Republicans, we were talking originally about the Supreme Court here. If Senate Republicans go ahead and confirm Justice Barrett, there has been talk about ending the filibuster or even packing the court, adding to the 9 justices there. You call this a distraction by the president, but in fact it wasn't brought up by the president. It was brought up by some of your Democratic colleagues in the Congress. So my question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go.
What the fuck kind of an answer was that to his question?
It wasn't, and you know he's not going to answer.
Yeah, I guess I'm hoping too much. Are we doing Crowder's drinking game, says Ivan's son? No, not necessarily. I'm just drinking Monster to my own pleasure.
I'm drinking non-caffeinated tea. I would love to play the drinking game. Unfortunately, I have to go to work in the morning.
Go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now. Make sure you, in fact, let people know you're a senator. I'm not going to answer the question because the question is radical left. Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is
What the fuck? Just Joe Biden was going crazy, being like, "Vote now, vote now." Like, what the?
Well, you know that "will you shut up, man"? I think that's what I think that's what Trump is going for. He's trying to goad Biden into getting so frustrated he says the F word or something.
Yeah, but probably. But just what the fuck does Joe Biden think that this is? Some kind of voting awareness? Like voter turnout ad right now? This isn't a voter turnout ad, Joe. It's just a damn
Joe,
question.
we want to know whether or not you support packing the Supreme Court like FDR.
Yeah, exactly. And the only answer that he had to that was, once I take a position on that, that'll become the issue. It's an issue right now because you're running for the position that you could possibly have power to invoke on that decision. Like, what the
no, I don't want to go down too far down this rabbit trail, but this makes me think of the episode of Family Guy where Mayor West is in a mayoral debate. Someone asks him a question, his answer is, "You know what, sir, that is a great question. And you know why it's so important that people ask questions? Because if people don't ask questions, then all we have is answers."
I think I remember that. That's the one episode of when that Lois kept on invoking 9/11 consistently, right?
That's correct.
Right.
on your list, Joe?
And Night Shift says that he was just thinking of that.
Who's on your list?
Right, gentlemen, I think
this is so unprecedented.
He's going to pack the court.
We have
not going to give a list.
We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it really wasn't helped because you kept on acting like that this was a voter turnout ad instead of answering the damn question, Joe.
The subject of this segment was Supreme Court. Well, I believe the point stands. Donald Trump has the perfect legal right as the president to nominate a new justice. Seeing as the Senate is on his side, she's probably going to make it through. And Joe Biden refuses to answer the question as to whether or not he supports packing the court if he's elected.
Mm-hmm.
So we've learned exactly nothing.
Exactly.
Continue.
Keep yapping, man.
The people understand. 47 years you've done nothing. They understand.
All right. The second subject is COVID-19, which is an awfully serious subject. So
ooh,
let's try to
COVID.
be serious about it. We have had more than 7.
Oh boy, now I'm gonna get all the coronavirus fact check information ad done beneath my video. Oh, I'm shaking, I'm quaking in my boots.
7 million cases of coronavirus in the United States, and more than 200,000 people have died. Even after we produce
I take into question that number, honestly, but I digress.
a vaccine, experts say that it could be months or even years before we come back to anything approaching normal. My question for both of you is, based on what you have said and done so far, and what—
Well, I'd say that ever since July and even August that we were like slightly approaching normalcy anyways. I mean, it's not completely normal, but all the same, I don't know. Maybe I'm being pedantic or nitpicky.
what you have said you would do starting in 2021, why should the American people trust you more than your opponent to deal with this public health crisis going forward? In this case, The question goes to you first, sir. 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Good luck. 200,000 dead. As you said, over 7 million infected in the United States. We, in fact, have 4% of the world's population, 20% of the deaths. 40,000 people a day are contracting COVID. In addition to that, about between 750 and 1,000 people.
How many of those are people with just mere antibodies is my question, and not with any serious case of it? And that the CDC is getting mixed up in their contraction numbers. But
what I want to hear is what has Trump failed to do that Joe Biden is going to do differently? I haven't heard yet. Let's hear.
Right.
People today are dying. When he was presented with that number, he said it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because you are who you are. That's why it is. The president has no plan. He hasn't laid out anything. He knew all the way back in February how serious this crisis was. He knew it was a deadly disease. What did he do? He's on tape as acknowledging he knew it. He said he didn't tell us or give people a warning of it because he didn't want to panic the American people. You don't panic. He panicked. In addition to that, what did he do? He went in and
never mind.
We were insisting that the Chinese, the people we had on the ground in China,
I was about to say something, but then I was all like, never mind.
they should be able to go to Wuhan and determine for themselves how dangerous this was. He did not even ask Xi to do that. He told us what a great job Xi was doing. He said we owe him a debt of gratitude for being so transparent with us. And what did he do then? He then did nothing. He waited and waited and waited. He still doesn't have a plan. I laid out back in March exactly what we should be doing. And I laid out again in July what we should be doing. We should be providing all the protective gear possible. We should be providing the money the House has passed in order to be able to go out and get people the help they need to keep their businesses open schools. It costs a lot of money. You should get out of your bunker and get out of the sand trap and get in your golf course and go in the Oval Office and bring together the Democrats and Republicans and fund what needs to be done now to save lives.
So if we would have listened to you...
You have 2 minutes, sir.
If we would have listened to you, the country would have been left wide open. Millions of people would have died, not 200,000, and one person is too much. It's China's fault. It should have never happened. They stopped it from going in, but it was China's fault. And by the way, when you talk about numbers, you don't know how many people died in China. You don't know how many people died in Russia. You don't know how many people died in India. They don't exactly give you a straight count, just so you understand. But if you look at what we've done, I closed it, and you said he's xenophobic.
This I can somewhat agree on, and Loudmouth Reviews, if he was watching this debate, and if he was like on this panel right now, he would be agreeing with him because Loudmouth pretty much doesn't believe the numbers that China is putting out because the WHO, I believe it was, their numbers are coming explicitly reliant on China's own projection of their numbers as far as deaths go and whatnot. So there is a case to be made that there is some shadiness going on about this.
Yes, and let's not forget, Trump's absolutely right. The Democrats called him xenophobic when he closed the border to China back in January.
Mm-hmm. And to kind of expound on that, Sent11000 says in the chat, last time I heard he did warn people, but he was made out to be a liar. All right.
And xenophobic. Xenophobic and racist for closing the border to China. That's what they said.
The Who, says Sent11000. Who are you? Anyway.
He's a racist and he's xenophobic because you didn't think I should have closed our country. Wait a minute.
It says 2 minutes.
You didn't think we should have closed our country because you thought it was terrible. You wouldn't have closed it for another 2 months. By my doing it early, in fact, Dr. Fauci said, President Trump saved thousands of lives. Many of you Democrat governors said, President Trump did a phenomenal job. We worked with the governor. Oh, really? Go take a look. The governors said I did a phenomenal job. Most of them said that. In fact, people that would not be necessarily on my side said that. President Trump did a phenomenal job. We did. We got the gowns. We got the masks. We made the ventilators. You wouldn't have made ventilators. And now we're weeks away from a vaccine. We're doing therapeutics already. Fewer people are dying when they get sick. far fewer people are dying. We've done a great job. The only thing I haven't done a good job, and that's because of the fake news. No matter what you say to them, they give you bad press on it. It's just fake news. They give you good press, they give me bad press, because that's the way it is, unfortunately. But let me just tell you something. I don't care. I've got
Stereotypical of
but
Trump.
I'll tell you, Joe, you could never have done the job that we did. You don't have it in your blood. You could have never done that job.
I know how to do the job. I know how to get the job
Well, you
done.
didn't do very well in swine flu. H1N1, you were a disaster. Your own chief of staff said you were a disaster.
14,000 people died, not 200,000. There was no economic recession.
Sir, you made a
There was no recession.
You made a point. Let him answer.
And there was no one. We didn't shut down the economy. This is his economy he's shut down. The reason it's shut down is because, look, you folks at home, how many of you got up this morning and had an empty chair at the kitchen table because someone died of COVID? How many of you were in a situation where you lost your mom or dad and you couldn't even speak to them? You had a nurse holding a phone up so you could, in fact, say goodbye.
You would have lost far more people. Far more people.
And,
you would have been.
And by the way,
months late.
your own
You were months behind me,
his
Joe.
own CDC director says we could lose as many as another 200,000 people between now and the end of the year. And he held up. He said, if we just wear a mask, we can save half those numbers. Just a mask. And by the way, in terms of the whole notion of a vaccine, we're for a vaccine, but I don't trust him at all, nor do you. I know you don't. What we trust is a scientist.
You don't
we
trust
Dr.
Johnson
Fauci.
& Johnson, Pfizer?
And
Okay,
by the way,
gentlemen, let me move on to questions about the future, because you both have touched on two of the questions I'm going to ask. Focusing on the future first, President Trump, you have repeatedly either contradicted or been at odds with some of your government's own top scientists. The week before last, the head of the Centers for Disease Control, Dr. Redfield, said
9 minutes ago, Ben Shapiro tweeted, "This is so insane, there is no way to even follow what the hell is going on." I don't always agree with Ben Shapiro, but when I do, I usually do very much.
Precisely. It was hard for me to follow along and hear exactly what them two were saying at some points. I mean, if I was to be paying closer attention, I probably could be able to actually catch on to what they were actually fully saying with that last segment there about coronavirus, because they weren't interrupting as much. But I was sharing around the link to this stream in the meantime. But anyway.
Before the vaccine would become generally available to the public. You said that he was confused and mistaken. Those were your two words.
Yeah.
But Dr. Slaoui, the head of your Operation Warp Speed, has said exactly the same thing. Are they both wrong?
Well, I've spoken to the companies, and we can have it a lot sooner. It's a very political thing, because people like this would rather make it political than save lives. It is a very political thing. I've spoken to Pfizer. I've spoken to all of the people that you have to speak to. We have great Moderna, Johnson & Johnson, and others. They can go faster than that by a lot. Become very political, because the left, or I don't know if I call them left, I don't know what I call them.
So you're suggesting that the head of your Operation Warp Speed, Dr. Slaoui...
I disagree with them. No, I disagree with them.
The left, I don't know what I would call him. I mean, he's kind of making the same point that socialists would, because far left socialists would say Biden's not left and so forth. Trump is almost sympathizing with that logic. I just found it kind of funny.
Both of them. And he didn't say that. He said it could be there, but it could also be much sooner. I had him in my office 2 days ago.
He talked about the summer, sir, before it's generally available. Just like
he
Dr.
said it's a
Redfield.
possibility that we'll have the answer before November 1st. It could also be
talking
after
about when it's
that.
generally available.
Well, we're going to deliver it right away. We have the military all set up. Logistically, they're all set up. We have our military that delivers soldiers, and they can do 200,000 a day. They're going to be
This
delivering
is the
the
same man
It's
who
all
told
set
you
up.
by Easter this would be gone away. By the warm weather, it'd be gone. Miraculous, like a miracle. And by the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the same man.
That was said sarcastically,
That was
and you
him.
know that.
Now Trump making a quip at Biden's expense on that line. Night Shift 10,000 says, "God, Ben nailed it," referring to what you said that he had tweeted out 2 cents.
Indeed.
And so here's the deal. This man is talking about a vaccine. Every serious company is talking about maybe having a vaccine done by the end of the year. But the distribution of that vaccine will not occur until sometime beginning or the middle of next year to get it out, if we get the vaccine. And pray God we will. Pray God we will.
Mr. Vice President, I want to pick up
You'll have the vaccine
I
sooner
want to
than
pick
that.
up on this question, though. You say the public can trust the scientists, but they can't trust President Trump. In fact, you said that again tonight. Your running mate, Senator Harris, goes further, saying the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed. Given the fact that polls already show that people are concerned about the vaccine and are reluctant to take it, are you and your running mate, Senator Harris, contributing to that fear?
No more than the question you just asked him. You pointed out. He puts pressure and disagrees with his own scientists.
But you're saying
Everybody
you can't,
knows.
Senator Harris is saying you can't trust the scientists.
No, you can trust the scientists. She didn't say that. You can't trust
She said the public health experts, quote, will be muzzled, will be suppressed.
Well, that's what he's going to try to do, but there's millions of scientists, there's thousands of scientists out there like
You
him
can only
at this great
trust the
hospital.
scientists if I'm in power.
I gotcha. Something I wanted to say, but I forgot what it was for right now.
That don't work for him. Their job doesn't depend on him.
Oh crud. Zachary Collier says, oh crud, sending the military, tell me it ain't so. Yeah, I mean, that honestly, that does put me on edge as well, Zach, when he says that, when Trump goes proposing that. But I can only hope that it's only with helping distribute the vaccine to all the different localities, and not that the military is going to be rolling in and start forcing people to take the vaccine. But we'll see what more is said in regards to that, if anything.
That's not. They're the people. And by the way,
I spoke to the scientists that are in charge.
By the way,
they will have the vaccine very soon.
By the way, I just want to say very quickly that I think Chris Wallace is doing a pretty good job at moderating. Definitely doing a better job at moderating. Overall, than what was the guy's name? Brian Stelter? Or what was the guy who moderated the first debate between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump? Do you remember, 2 cents?
Well, what was his name? Wolf Blitzer.
No, I don't think that was it. It was
that's not right.
It was some elongated, headed, with glasses black guy from
I remember.
CNBC.
I can picture in my mind too, but I don't remember.
But I just remember that even when I first looked at that debate, listened to it, that I was thinking myself, oh, that this moderator is biased. I mean, Trump is making himself look like a jackass, but at the same time, the moderator is biased. But in this case right here, Chris Wallace is doing a bit better job. JC Armitage says, Don Lemon? No, it wasn't Don Lemon. Don Lemon is from CNN. This guy that I'm thinking of was from MSNBC. Either that or CNBC, one of those more Microsoft-associated media networks.
Do you believe for a moment what he's telling you in light of all the lies he's told you about the whole issue relating to COVID? He still hasn't even acknowledged that he knew this was happening, knew how dangerous it was going to be back in February, and he didn't even tell you. He's on record as saying it. He panicked, or he just looked at the stock market. One of the two, because guess what? A lot of people died, and a lot more are going to die unless he gets a lot smarter, a lot quicker.
Mr. President?
Did you use the word smart? So you said you went to Delaware State, but you forgot the name of your college. You didn't go to Delaware State. You graduated either the lowest or almost the lowest in your class. Don't ever use the word smart with me. Don't ever use that word.
Oh, give me a break.
Because you know what? There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years you've done.
Okay, can we get on more with the issue instead of personal attacks, Trump? Please? Thank you.
Well, let's have this debate.
And if you would have had, let me just tell you something, Joe.
No,
if you would have had the charge of what I was put through, I had to close the greatest economy in the history of our country. And by the way, now it's being built again.
See,
and it's
We're going to
going
get
up
to the
fast.
economy in the next segment, sir.
Okay.
It's going up fast.
Okay.
Look forward to talking.
When it comes to how the virus has been handled so far, the two of you have taken very different approaches, and this is going to affect how the virus is handled going forward by whichever of you ends up becoming the next president. I want to quickly go through several of those. Reopenings. Vice President Biden, you have been much more reluctant than President Trump about reopening the economy and schools. Why, sir?
Because he doesn't have a plan. If I were running, I know what the plan is. You've got to provide these businesses the ability to have the money to be able to reopen with the PPE as well as with the sanitation they need. You have to provide
Tell that
them
to Nancy
plastic.
Pelosi. Well, he's just
All right, for
shush.
both of them, printing money does not create the resources that the businesses need. If anyone had the balls to say it, the only thing that could fix the economy is the government taking its greedy little hands out of the equation, just letting people figure out what they need to do to meet their own needs. But of course, neither of them will have the balls to say that.
I mean, precisely. And Zach McCullough in the chat says, you did not close it, state governors closed the economy. As more directly of who actually took power, the state governors did it. President Trump, he was more of an advisor of what he was doing there, more at the top. Also responsible for giving out stimulus checks, and he did sign those 2 executive actions regards grocery stores, price gouging, and in regards to people hoarding. But yeah, this is quite a funny point, at least in my opinion. I mean, if Trump's going to reopen it, there isn't really much of a plan needed on that front. Although I guess Joe Biden is under the assumption that Trump needs to provide the PPE for these businesses, which I quite frankly disagree with. If a business wants to be providing PPE to their employees and their workers and whatnot whilst working, let them do it themselves. Don't have it government funded. I mean, it might be a little bit more expensive, but it's not completely out of the budget to give people just gloves and face masks and hand sanitizer, for that matter. I mean, come on.
Somebody has to produce those resources. The government printing money does not make those resources magically appear.
Right. I don't know if that was... Were you saying that in response to me, 2 cents?
Well, not you specifically, but the point I'm making is, if their argument is the government needs to help these businesses get a hold of those resources like PPE, hand sanitizer, well, someone's got to produce them. The government printing more money and handing it out to businesses doesn't make more of that stuff appear.
Right, and I was also saying that not only on the front do they not have a right to the money or resources to be provided for free for them at someone else's expense, but also my main point was it's not like it's too expensive for a business in order to attain those resources, and even I would go so far to say that they are either very, very marginal in how much they help, or completely asinine in the supposed help that people are intended these resources to, help in alleviating the Rona.
Tell it to Nancy Pelosi and Schumer.
By the way,
Chuck.
Nancy Pelosi and Schumer, they have a plan. He won't even meet with them. The Republicans won't meet with the Senate, and he sits on his golf course. And literally, think about it.
You probably play more than I do, Joe.
What about this question of reopenings and the fact?
Well, he wants to shut down this country, and I want to keep it open. And we did a great thing by shutting it down. Wait a minute, Joe. Let me shut you down for a second, Joe, just for 1 second. He wants to shut down the country. We just went through it. We had.
Ivan's son, apparently Ivan's son might have looked at some further point of the debate than we, because we are 25 minutes behind. Well, actually 27 minutes behind, damn. But he says, KKK are peacefully protesting when burning crosses on lawns. Apparently they must have got to the rioting point within the debate live, but let's go on.
Because we didn't know anything about the disease. Now we found that elderly people with heart problems and diabetes and different problems are very, very vulnerable. We learned a lot. Young children aren't. Even younger people aren't. We've learned a lot. But he wants to shut it down. More people will be hurt by continuing. If you look at Pennsylvania, if you look at certain states that have been shut down, they have
speed this up a little bit.
One of the reasons they're shut down is because they want to keep it shut down until after the election on November 3rd. Because it's a political. But those states are not doing.
Never mind. I was speeding it up for a second there, but then I realized of how much faster that Chris Wallace was speaking. It was almost inaudible or unintelligible how it sounded.
Doing well that are shut down right now.
Respond to that.
President Trump, you have begun to increasingly question the effectiveness of masks as a disease preventer, and in fact recently you have cited the issue of waiters touching their masks and touching plates. Are you questioning the effect?
Which is one of the examples of how asinine that these protections honestly are. Unless you're going to start literally firing, or at least even or at least writing people up for every single freaking time that they do such a thing like that.
Masks are
Efficacy of
okay. You have
masks?
to understand, if you look, I mean, I have a mask right here. I put a mask on, when I think I need it. Tonight, as an example, everybody's had a test, and you've had social distancing and all of the things that you have to, but I
Just
wear
like your
masks
rallies.
when needed. When needed, I wear masks.
Okay, let me ask.
I don't wear masks like him. Every time you see him, he's got a mask. He could be speaking 200 feet away from it. He shows up with the biggest mask I've ever seen. I will say this.
Vice President Biden, go ahead, sir.
Look, the way to open businesses is give them the wherewithal to be able to open. We provided money. The Congress.
But I was asking you, sir, about masks.
Well,
Well, question, Joe, what if they don't want the protection? Can they refuse it? Can even if we were to, like, before providing these resources, can people, like, be at least exempt from it if they want to be exempt from, being provided these resources, PPE and such?
masks make a big difference. His own head of the CDC said if we just wore masks between now, everybody wore masks in social distance between now and January, we'd probably save up to 100,000 lives. It matters.
And they've also said the opposite. They've also said
no serious person said the opposite.
They've
No
also said, well, look
serious.
at Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci said the
He
opposite.
did not
I
say
want to
the
ask you,
opposite.
we got a
said
little
very
bit more than a
strongly,
minute left in this
masks
segment.
are not good.
I do want to say that Fauci has had a history of kind of contradicting himself ever since the
Fauci
beginning
has
of
directly flipped his position on masks, so.
Yeah, multiple times on multiple things. JC Armitage says, these mask mandates are nothing more than security theater. Pretty much, they're just a show is what they are.
Then he changed his mind. He said masks good. I'm okay with masks.
I want to ask you both about one last subject, because your different approaches has even affected the way that you have campaigned. President Trump, you're holding large rallies with crowds packed together, thousands of people.
Outside.
Outside, yes, sir, agreed. Vice President Biden, you are holding much smaller events with...
Because nobody will show up.
People...
It's true. Nobody shows up to his rallies.
All right. In any case, why you holding the big rallies? Why you not? You go first, sir.
Because people want to hear what I have to say. I mean,
But are you not
I've done
worried
a great
about it
job
spreading
as a
disease?
president, and I'll have 35,000 people show up at airports. We use airports.
Are you
and
not worried
hangars,
about
and we
the
have a
disease
lot of
issues,
people.
sir?
Well, so far we have had no problem whatsoever. It's outside. That's a big difference, according to the experts. And we do them outside. We have tremendous crowds, as you see. I mean, and literally on 24 hours notice. And Joe does the circles and has 3 people someplace.
Okay.
By the way, did you see
sir.
one of the last big rallies he had? And a reporter came up to him to ask him a question. He said, no, stand back. Put on your mask. Put on a mask. Have you been tested? I'm way far away from those other people. That's what he said. I can't. I'm going to be okay. He's not worried about you. He's not worried about the people out there breathing on one another.
We've had no negative
cheek to
effect.
jowl. No negative effect.
We've had no negative effect. And we've had 35,000, 40,000
All right.
people
You
at these rallies.
Just
Yes.
quickly finish up, because I want to move on to our next.
Yes, I would. He's been totally irresponsible the way in which he has handled the social distancing and people wearing masks.
Well, to argue for Trump's case, what if Trump realizes that all the individual people that attend his rallies, he realizes that they are responsible for their own health, and the people themselves realize that they are responsible for their own health, completely independent of anyone else's, contribution to their health and safety. But Trump is just taking actions for himself, but he doesn't want to be, ruling with an iron fist or making rules with an iron fist on how people are supposed to be within his rallies. Just saying.
Basically encourage them not to.
All right.
He's a fool on this.
If you could get the crowds, you would have done the same thing. But you can't. Nobody cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the
cares.
Gentlemen, can we move on to the economy?
Yes.
The economy.
Oh, the
is,
economy.
I think it's
That's
fair
how
to say, recovering.
Yep, and I got the man who literally has himself named after money, so this should be the most interesting part for you to mostly be able to contribute in 2 cents as far as how good or bad the Trump economy has been.
Faster than expected from the shutdown.
Much faster.
In the second quarter, the unemployment rate fell to 8.4% last month. The Federal Reserve says the hit to growth, which is going to be there, is not going to be nearly as big as they had expected. President
Okay,
Trump,
I'd
you
like to
say
know
we
of
are
that unemployment drop, how much of that is just resulting from businesses that have brought people back on nominally but aren't working because that was the only way they could receive money through the Paycheck Protection Program or whatever it's called.
Okay, so basically they're just pretending to bring those people back to work just to make it look good on paper?
I think that's definitely the case with many of these businesses because that's one of the terms of the Paycheck Protection Program. Now, is that responsible for all the entire drop in unemployment? I wouldn't say so. But if I'm not mistaken, there's still the amount of new unemployment claims being filed every week is in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions. So I find it difficult to believe that it's that drastic of a drop.
I also want to call into question the labor participation rate, but I'll look for that while I'll let it play.
A V-shaped recovery. Vice President Biden, you say it's more of a K-shape. What difference does that mean to the American people in terms of the economy? President Trump, in this segment, you go first.
So we built the greatest economy in history. We closed it down because of the China plague. When the plague came in, we closed it down, which was very hard psychologically to do. He didn't think we should close it down, and he was wrong. And again, 2 million people would be dead now instead of still 204,000 people is too much. One person is too much. Should have never happened from China. But what happened is we closed it down, and now we're reopening. And
Well, I don't have any numbers as far as this graph from Investopedia goes, in like that go in regards of current day, but as of late of December 2019, the labor force participation rate was 63.2%, which is higher than it was back during Obama's last time in office, which was January 2017, 62.8%. So it has been like very slowly growing, if not staying fairly steady within Trump's entire tenure in office. But nonetheless, so I guess maybe the unemployment rate possibly looks good for in his case. But again, we're talking about mid-coronavirus days here, folks, which that did not come about until really kick in until March 2020. So this chart isn't really exactly up to date, but moving on.
we're doing record business. We had 10.4 million people in a 4-month period that we've...
Oh, wait. I just want to give people a bit of an update. Scroll down here just a little bit. And 61.7%, the U.S. labor force participation rate in August 2020, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So that is a whole lot lower than considerably lower than 63.2% in December 2019. So that doesn't look very good as far as Trump's record goes. And really have to take that into consideration when it comes to unemployment rate. You have to have the labor force participation rate either remain steady while the unemployment rate goes down, or have labor force participation rise while unemployment is going down in order for it to actually look good as far as how many people are actually working within the economy. But that's my opinion anyways.
Put back into the workforce. That's a record the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And he wants to close down he will shut it down again. He will destroy this country. You know, a lot of people, between drugs and alcohol and depression, when you start shutting it down, you take a look at what's happening in some of your Democrat-run states where they have these tough shutdowns. And I'm telling you, it's because they don't want to open it. One of them came out last week, you saw that. Oh, we're going to open up on November 9th. Why November 9th? Because it's after the election. They think they're hurting us by keeping them closed. They're hurting people. People know what to do. They can social distance, they can wash their hands, they can wear masks, they can do whatever they want. But they got to open these states up. When you look at North Carolina, when you look, and these governors are under siege, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and a couple of others, you got to open these states up. It's not fair. You're talking about almost, it's like being in prison. And you look at what's going on with divorce, look at what's going on with alcoholism and drugs. It's a very, very sad thing. And he'll close down the whole country. This guy will close down the whole country.
Got any stats to provide in regards of the correlation between that and the lockdowns, Trump? Otherwise, it's just assertive platitudes.
And destroy our country. Our country is coming back incredibly well, setting records as it does it. We don't need somebody to come in and say, let's shut it down.
All right. Your 2 minutes, sir. We're now moved to you.
All I want to add, and I don't want to keep this going too long, is that the Fed has already announced that they're going to keep interest rates at near zero until 2023. They're essentially printing money like mad in order to hide the economic effects that are going on right now, which is only going to collapse the dollar and or lead to the total collapse of the economy. Again, if the economy were really doing as well as Trump claims it is, there is no reason the Fed would need to do that.
Right. It's only looking good on the surface. It's like a bubble that was painted, basically.
Exactly. One of the best analogies I've given, it's like a junkie who keeps shooting up to avoid the impending hangover. Sure, every time he shoots up, the hangover gets pushed back further, but he's only delaying the inevitable and ensuring it's going to be worse when it finally happens.
Damn. Yeah. And I've suffered hangovers before, so I should know. Well, okay. In drinking alcohol, I do not know what drug that you were trying to imply right there, 2 cents, but I've only drank booze whenever I got a hangover. No other drugs associated, people, but nonetheless.
As I said, posing the question, the president says it's a V-shaped recovery. You say it's a K-shaped recovery. What's the difference?
The difference is millionaires and billionaires like him in the middle of the COVID crisis have done very well. Billionaires have made another $300 billion.
Those are unrealized capital gains, not an actual increase in assets. In my video response to AOC, I debunked that claim.
All right, cool.
Proposal, and he only focused on the market. But you folks at home, you folks living in Scranton.
And again, I'd say the reason the market is doing so well is because the Fed is printing money like mad to keep it propped up.
Right.
All the small towns and working class towns in America. How well are you doing? This guy paid a total of $750 in taxes.
Sir, wait, no, sir, it's just yeah, I understand. You've agreed to the 2 minutes, so please let him have it.
Do I get my time back? The fact is that he has, in fact, worked on this in a way that he's going to be the first president of the United States to leave office having fewer jobs in his administration than when he became president. Fewer jobs than when he became president. First one in American history. Secondly, the people who have lost their jobs are those people who have been on the front lines, those people who have been saving our lives, those people who have been out there dying, people who've been putting themselves in the way to make sure that we could all try to make it. And the idea that he is insisting that we go forward and open when you have almost half the states in America with a significant increase in COVID deaths and COVID cases in the United States of America. And he wants to open it up more. Why does he want to open it up? Why doesn't he take care of the American? You can't fix the economy until you fix the COVID crisis. And he has no intention of doing anything about making it better for you all at home in terms of your health and your safety. Schools. Why aren't schools?
Well, I do not know of how truthful Biden's statement is about how flagrant Trump has been about opening the economy, but nonetheless, I congratulate him on that. I mean, he should not be mandating that people like stay at home or that businesses do X, Y, Z or even fully shut down in regards to the lockdown. No governor should, for that matter, too. Not the president, not any governors, and no mayors for that matter, too.
And Trump was right to bring up, what about all the increases in suicide that have come on because of these lockdowns? How can the government possibly be in possession of enough knowledge to know for every life they've saved from COVID, how many more lives were lost as a result of suicides or other medical conditions that have been perpetuated by these lockdowns? The government's just not in that position to make that calculation. But besides that, I'm really not hearing from Biden what he would have done differently that would have saved so many lives, or what he's going to do differently when elected that's going to save so many more lives. Trump failed. All this stuff happened under Trump's watch. Great. What is it that you would have done differently that would have stopped that from happening?
Good point. I did not hear that plan proposed by Joe myself either.
Open because it costs a lot of money to open them safely. You know, they were going to give, his administration was going to give the teachers and school students masks. And then they decided, no, couldn't do that because it's not a national emergency. Not a national emergency. They've done nothing to help small businesses. Nothing. They're closing. 1 in 6 is now gone. He ought to get on the job and take care of the needs of the American people so we can open safely.
All right. Your time is up, sir.
Well,
we are going to get to...
I have to respond to that.
Well, you both had 2 minutes, sir.
Excuse me, he made a statement.
So did you.
People want their schools, no, people want their schools open. They don't want to be shut down. They don't want their state shut down. They want their restaurants. I look at New York, it's so sad.
Is he going to cite the percentage of death at DarkCon? Says Zach we call in the chat. I don't think so. I don't think either of these two clowns are gonna hardly at all cite specific numbers, much less even like cite specifically what organizations they got their numbers from. Although, correct me if I'm wrong, 2 cents, but didn't I hear one time before that presidents are not allowed to mention where they got their numbers from?
Mention where they got the numbers from in regards to what?
In regards of any subject, like how good the economy is doing, mortality rates on this subject and that subject, deaths from guns, and, you know, all that stuff.
I mean, I'm not aware of any legal precedent there. I mean, you're right. They hardly ever do that I know of, but...
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it's against debate rules, because I know that there was like one debate during the 2012 election that you're not technically supposed to like bring sources to help, you know, jog your memory as to what numbers you're trying to remember, and I vaguely remember that Mitt Romney was caught doing that. He had like cheat sheet cards or whatever to help jog his memory on what sources he was remembering for his claims. But anyway, I digress. It's a non-issue in my opinion, but nonetheless.
What's happening in New York, it's almost like a ghost town, and I'm not sure it can ever recover what they've done in New York. People want their places open. They want to get back to their lives. They'll be careful, but they want their schools open. I'm the one that brought back football. By the way, I brought back Big Ten football. It was me, and I'm very happy to do it.
No. I'm cringing here. You did not do that, Trump. Oh God, you're not even the primary one who like was saying to all these states, or you're not even the one who is like at the reins of each one of these states to say, yeah, open up the economy, or even have the authority to say, yeah, let's open up the economy. You did not do that. I don't even recall him like making any statements about football, let alone make any actions in regards to that. That was completely the NFL's own doing as far as the Super Bowl goes and whatnot. Don't get your head out of your own ass, Trump. Sheesh.
Do it. And
all right,
people of Ohio are very proud of me, and you know how I found out? When he took
gentlemen,
the
we're going to
ad.
get to your economic plans going forward in a moment. But first, Mr. President, as you well know, there's a new report that in 2016, the year you were elected president, and 2017, your first year as president, that you paid $750 a year in federal income tax each of those years. I know that you pay a lot of other taxes, but I'm asking you the specific question. Is it true that you paid $750 in federal income taxes each of those 2 years?
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars.
He's not going to answer it, is he? And by the way, I do remember this issue going around on Twitter quite a bit. And yeah, all the libertarians and whatnot were pretty much, oh, shucks. My 2 cents in the chat says, hey guys, it's thunderstorming where I live, just lost power, and with it, my Wi-Fi. Won't be able to make it back in. Aww, 2 cents, come on. Oh, man. Well, my 2 cents, say whatever you want. Yes, everybody press F in the chat for my 2 cents and his loss of power and Wi-Fi. But 2 cents, if you're still watching there in the chat, you can at least give out your 2 cents, no pun intended, in the live chat, and I can like always read off each chat comment that you give off. But nonetheless, God, what point was I going to make there? I can't even hardly remember. I'm gonna rewind it just a few seconds.
Is it true that you paid $750?
Oh yeah, now I remember. A lot of libertarians and anarchists, especially over Twitter, were like pretty much congratulating and saying good for him that Trump was able to take advantage of so many tax breaks because, yeah, taxation is illegitimate. Taxation is theft and whatnot, as the good old saying goes.
In federal income taxes each of those 2 years.
I paid millions of dollars in taxes, millions of dollars of income tax. And let me just tell you, There was a story in one of the papers.
Show us your tax
I paid
returns.
$38 million 1 year. I paid $27 million
Show us your tax
1 year.
returns.
I went. You'll see it as soon as it's finished. You'll see it. You know, if you want to go to the Board of Elections. There's a 118-page or so report that says everything I have, every bank I have, I'm totally under leveraged because the assets are extremely good, and I built a
Sir,
great
I'm asking
company.
you a specific question, which
But
is.
let me tell you.
I understand all of that.
Release your
I
tax
understand all of
return.
that.
But let me-
No, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
I'm asking you a question. Will you tell us how much you paid in federal income taxes in 2016 and 2017?
Millions of dollars.
You paid millions of dollars?
Millions of dollars.
So
yes.
not 750?
Millions of dollars, and you'll get to see it.
I-
You'll get to
When?
see it. But let me just
Inshallah?
tell you, Chris, let me just tell you something, that it was the tax laws. I don't want to pay tax. Before I came here, I was a private developer. I was a private business people. Like every other private person, unless they're stupid, they go through the laws, and that's what it is. He passed a tax bill that gave us all these privileges for depreciation and for tax credits. We build a building and we get tax credits, like the hotel on Pennsylvania Avenue. You get a massive, which, by the way, was given to me by the Obama administration, if you can believe that. Now, the man got fired right after that happened. But
Vice President Biden, you want to
No, he did not get fired. He did not even get impeached. He just got, his term expired is what happened there, Trump. Don't be ridiculous. I do also want to add, by the way, folks, that my belief in regards to taxes is that I think that the income tax rates themselves should be as low as possible. I don't believe so much in all these millions and or at least thousands and whatnot of different types of tax exemptions and tax benefits, and whatnot that rich people can exploit that are like in the system. But I, at the same time, do believe that the rates themselves should be low and that some taxes should just not exist at all. Like the death tax, for example, being one of them, sin taxes. And I would even, like, ideally speaking, before abolishing the income tax and just replace it with the sales tax at least. But unfortunately, we're not in an ideal world. I would say at least put income tax down, at least in my opinion, down to 20%. Get rid of the loopholes and whatnot, but put the income tax itself down to 20%, if not lower. Of course, that's just me.
Bond?
Yeah, I do want to respond. Look, the tax code that made him, put him in a position that he pays less tax than a school teacher on the money a school teacher makes, is because of him he says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code. And he does take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts. And I'm going to eliminate those tax cuts and make sure that we invest in the people who, in fact, need the help. People out there need help.
But why didn't you do it over the last 25 years?
Because you weren't president. Because you weren't president screwing things up.
You were a senator.
No, Joe. Come on. Trump was asking over the last 25 years. Trump was not president for the last 25 years. There was both Bush and Obama. You could have definitely done, well, I don't know how much he could have done like during Obama's tenure because he wasn't really senator. He was vice president. But he could have at least advocated for something in regards to taxes. But here we are, folks.
You're the worst president America has ever had.
Hey,
Come
Joe,
on.
let me just tell you, Joe. I've done more in 47 months. I've done more than you've done in 47 years, Joe. We've done things that you never even thought of doing, including fixing the broken military that you gave me, including taking care of your vets.
Mr. President, we're talking about the economy. I'd like to ask you about your plans going forward because, Mr. Vice President, your economic plan, if you were to be elected president, focuses a lot on big government, big taxes, big spending. I want to focus first on the taxes. You propose more than $4 trillion over a decade in new taxes on individuals making more than $400,000 a year and on corporations. President Trump says that kind of a...
They're just going to find new loopholes or like move out or ship their money via overseas. At least that's my prediction anyways. More rich people are going to Cayman Island bank accounts, Switzerland bank accounts, the jazz. whatnot.
Increase in taxes is going to hurt the economy as it's just coming out of a recession.
Well, just take a look at what the analysis done by Wall Street firms points out that my economic plan would create 7 million more jobs than his in 4 years, number one. And number two, it would create an additional $1 trillion in economic growth, because it would be about buying American. That we're going to make this federal government spend $600 billion a year on everything from ships to steel to buildings and the like. And under my proposal, we're going to make sure that every penny of that has to be made by a company.
But respectfully, sir, I'm talking about taxes, not spending.
Oh, well, by the way, I'm going to eliminate a significant number of the tax. I'm going to make the corporate tax 28%. It shouldn't be 21%. You have 91 companies, in the Fortune 500 who don't pay a single penny in tax, making billions of dollars.
Why didn't you do it before when you were vice president with Obama?
Because you, in fact, passed that. That was your tax proposal.
I got it done, and you know what happened?
Yeah, you got it done.
Our economy boomed like it's never boomed.
The economy is
Mr.
busted.
President,
Let me finish.
Mr. President, let me pick up on that. You would continue your free market approach, lower taxes, more deregulation, correct?
Not lower taxes, American.
The whole deregulation thing is questionable, really, because of all the midnight regulations and whatnot. But I definitely have to look up more sometime into how many regulations were cut under Trump, if any at all. And by the way, can you people in the chat still hear me very clearly, even though that I'm kind of being more laid back in my chair right now? Please tell me in the chat.
People.
Excuse me. But in Obama's, you talk about the economy booming. It turns out that in Obama's final 3 years as president, more jobs were created, 1.5 million more jobs than in the first 3 years of your presidency.
They had the slowest recovery since economic recovery since 1929. It was the slowest recovery. Also, they took over something that was down here. All you had to do is turn on.
Honestly, I think that growth in jobs is in spite of Obama, not because of Obama. Just my opinion anyways. Because if Obama really had his way, then he would have banned fracking. If he had fully his own way anyways. And JC Armitage says, yeah, that she can hear me. Alright. What is so free about our market exactly, says Zachary Colley? Exactly. I mean, Trump isn't a free marketeer himself. Oh, hey, my 2 cents is back. He's back only in the live chat, though. And just to read what my 2 cents is saying, as I said that I would read every one of his live chats. Some were cut that I know of, but per the Federal Register, not nearly as many as he'd have you believe. I got you, my 2 cents. I mean, and let's also keep in mind, I would bet that there was some regulations that were cut under Trump's administration, but it's a question of whether or not there were like more regulations made to compensate and even supersede those regulations that were cut. Were there more regulations made to sort of outdo the regulations that were cut? This is another side of the issue.
The lights, and you pick up a lot. But they had the slowest economic recovery since 1929. Let me tell you about the stock market. When the stock market goes up, that means jobs. It also means 401ks. If you got in, if you ever became president with your ideas, you want to terminate my taxes, I'll tell you what, you'll lose half of the companies that have poured in here will leave, and plenty of companies that are already here, they'll leave for other places. They will leave, and you will have a depression, the likes of which you've never seen.
Look.
We're about to suffer a depression nonetheless because of your super big ass spending, Trump. I mean, come on. Don't go flaunting your own self as being so much better than Biden in that area. Come on.
We inherited the worst recession short of a depression in American history. I was asked to bring it back. We were able to have an economic recovery that created the jobs you're talking about. We handed him a booming economy. He blew it.
It wasn't
booming.
Blew it.
He blew it.
It wasn't booming. It was the weakest recovery since 1929.
Is it fair to say he blew it when fact when there was record low unemployment before COVID?
Yeah, but because what he did, even before COVID, manufacturing went in the hole. Manufacturing went in a hole.
Excuse
number
me,
one.
Chris.
I don't think that's so true, and I will say that there was some manufacturing that was hurt ever since the Boeing accident that happened, of course, right before the lockdowns and Rona fully kicked in March and April. But I don't know of how true that is. Maybe it's something that I'll try to look up right now, actually.
Number two.
Chris.
Number three.
They said it would take. No, you were number two.
No.
Chris. They said it would
This
take a
guy is
miracle to bring back manufacturing. I brought back 700,000 jobs. They brought back nothing. They gave up on manufacturing.
We
Part
did
of
not
my
agree.
standard fare.
I'm the guy that
He
brought
totally
back
gave
the
up on
automobile industry.
manufacturing.
All right, let him.
We brought back, I was asked to bring back Chrysler and General Motors. We brought them back right here in the state of Ohio and Michigan. He blew it. They're gone. He blew it. And in fact, they're going.
Ohio had the best year it's ever had last year. Michigan had the best year they've ever had.
That is not
Many
true.
car companies came in from Germany, from Japan, went to Michigan, went to Ohio.
They're not having
And they didn't come in with you.
Mr. Vice President, go ahead.
And so you take a look at what he's actually done. He's done very little. His trade deals are the same way. He talks about these great trade deals. You know, he talks about the art of the deal. China's perfected the art of the steal. We have a higher deficit with China now than we did before. We have the highest trade deficit
China
with
ate
Mexico.
your lunch, down 18%. China ate your lunch, Joe, and no wonder your son goes in and he takes out billions of dollars. Takes out billions of dollars to manage. He makes millions of dollars. And also,
Simply
while we're
not
at it,
true.
why is it, just out of curiosity, the mayor of Moscow's wife gave your son $3.5 million.
That's
What
not
did he
true.
do to deserve it?
That
What
is
did he do with Burisma
none
to
of that
deserve
is true.
$183,000?
None
You've
of
asked
that
your
is
question,
true.
let him answer.
It sounds like that we're almost bordering into like Hunter Biden, Ukraine conspiracies and scandals or whatever. You know, the stuff that was brought up in 2019 about Trump having a phone call with Ukrainian leaders and so forth. Looking at this, monthly change in the manufacturing sector employment in the United States from August 2019 to August 2020. Can I get a longer time span than that? Because I'm wanting to go all the way back to the beginning of Trump's administration, for crying out loud. But anyway, I'm going to try to keep on looking for those numbers just for my own curiosity while letting this debate play out more.
None of that is true. It's
Oh, really? He didn't
totally,
get
But no,
$3.5
hey,
million?
Mr. President,
It's
Mr.
totally-
President, please.
totally
ask a question.
discredited. Totally discredited. And by the way,
Well, wait, he didn't get
No, no.
$3.5 million, Joe?
Mr. Vice,
He got
Mr.
$3.5
President,
million.
that is not true.
Oh,
Here's-
really?
Mr.
Oh.
President,
But, Mr.
it's an open discussion, please.
Now,
It's a fact.
Well,
There's- it
you
is
have
not a
raised an
fact.
issue. Let the
been
Vice
totally
President answer.
discredited.
Did
There was a
Burisma pay him
report.
$183,000 a month with no experience in energy?
Mr.
Look,
President,
with no
My
job?
son did nothing wrong at Burisma.
I think he did.
and
Mr.
the only
President,
guy that
let
did
him
something-
answer.
Okay, so I had just come across this one article by Forbes magazine here, folks, which I'm going to just pull up here very quickly. I'm not going to make it all about this article. Obviously, I'm not going to read it. It says, in Trump's first 30 months, manufacturing up by 314,000 jobs over Obama. Which states are hot? And yeah, those are it. The green are like places like Nevada, Texas, South Carolina, a lot of the Rocky Mountain states here, North and South Dakota and Iowa, and places that have no change is like New York, Alaska, Hawaii, Massachusetts. According to that graph anyways. I'm going to have to save this article for reading for a later time just to fact check exactly who is right on that. But if this article is really holding true to what the title says here right now, then that would mean that Biden was wrong in what he said about manufacturing went down in the hole, or whatever the exact verbatim quote was that he said, attacking Trump's record when it comes to jobs on that front. But anyway, moving on, folks.
He doesn't want to let me answer because he knows I have the truth. His position has been
Yeah, about that. But anyway.
totally, thoroughly discredited.
By who?
And
The media?
By everybody. Well, by the media, by our
because they refuse
allies.
Zachary Colley says, I don't see a connection between Wall Street and the workforce. Exactly, Zach. I mean, people like to flaunt off Wall Street and the stock market a little bit too much, in my opinion. Nobody new has joined this chat thus far. This panel, I mean, on StreamYard. But yeah, I did not hear the part talking about Wall Street, but I guess you have. I was like diverting my attention to researching that little claim right there about manufacturing.
By the World Bank, by everyone, has discredited. Matter of fact, even the people who testified under oath.
So let me ask you this, Joe.
No, go ahead, Mister. I'm listening to you.
People under,
you got $3.5 million from Moscow.
He testified under oath in his administration, said, "I did my job and I did it very well.
Oh, really?
I did it
I'd
honorably."
like to know who they are.
Well, I'll give you the list of the people who testified.
No, go ahead, sir.
Sure, you've already fired most of them because they did a good job.
Some people don't do a good job. With you,
go ahead. Wait a minute. You get the final word, Mr.
Well, it's hard to get any word in with this clown. Excuse me. This.
Hey, let me just say.
No. Mr. President.
You heard it, folks. Joe called Trump a clown, which he ain't too wrong in saying that, just to be quite dead honest. And by the way, we are like over 45 minutes behind. I am going to be here quite a while, folks. And I just want to say that I'm trying to like scour through what is ahead of us, and it looks like that they haven't went to a break yet as of thus far. Man, they have gone like over an hour without a break.
$3.5 million, Joe.
That is simply
why did he deserve $3.5 million from Moscow?
Look, here's the deal. We want to talk about families and ethics. I don't want to do that. I mean, his family we could talk about all night. His family's already...
My family lost a fortune by coming down and helping us with government.
And that's such a...
Mr. President.
Every single one of them lost
This is not about my family or his family. It's about your family. The American people. He doesn't... That's not true. It doesn't want to talk about what you need. You, the American people. It's about you.
There is a certain point to what he is saying right there, because I agree with Biden in that he's saying that Trump is being too obsessive over this Hunter Biden stuff right here, just to be quite honest. But at the same time, Trump is addressing the substance of the issues at least a little bit later in the earlier in the debate. Right now, he isn't really. He's too focused on Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son, and what he's done in regards of Ukraine and Russia and so forth, which I just have to say, get off of it, Trump, for fuck's sake. How long is their debate supposed to last, is JC Armitage? About an hour and a half, according to CNN and CNBC, according to CNN for one thing. As CNN and Washington Post, that's the two articles that I saw. About 1.5 hours, but we'll see of how much longer it goes.
That's what we're talking about.
All right, that's the end of the segment. We're moving on.
He didn't take them.
Well,
Vice President, no.
Can I be honest? It's a very important
Try to be
question.
honest.
He stood up.
No, the answer to the question is no.
Ukraine.
No, sir.
With $1 billion, if you
that
get rid
is
of
absolutely not true.
You're going to have
true.
Gentlemen. I hate to raise my voice, but it seems to be. Why should I be different than the two of you? So here's the deal.
Good point.
We have 6 segments. We have ended that segment. We're going to go to the next segment. In that segment, you each are going to have 2 uninterrupted moments. In those 2 uninterrupted minutes, Mr. President, you can say anything you want. I'm going to ask a question about race, but if you want to answer about something else, go ahead. But I think that the country would be better served if we allowed both people to speak with fewer interruptions. I'm appealing to you, sir, to do that.
Well, and him too.
Well, frankly, you've been doing more interrupting than he has.
That's all right, but he does plenty.
Yep, indeed.
Well, less than, sir, less than,
plenty.
No, less than you have. Let's please continue on. The issue of race. Vice President Biden, you say that President Trump's response...
Can we close the tab now? Asks Zachary Colley. They're just attacking each other's character. Well, they were for a bit there, but I presume that they are going to get back on the substance here in a bit. I think they're about to right here this second as well.
Response to the violence in Charlottesville 3 years ago, when he talked about very fine people on both sides, was what directly led you to launch this run for president.
Oh, yeah, sure.
President Trump, you have often said that you believe you
I think Joe was going to run for president nonetheless, regardless of Charlottesville, but I digress.
You have done more for black Americans than any president, with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln. My question for the two of you is, why should voters trust you rather than your opponent to deal with the race issues facing this country over the next 4 years? Vice President Biden, you go first.
I will say, actually, regardless of what Abraham Lincoln's actual intents were, or regardless of the constitutionality of his actions, that no, it's not possibly solidly Lincoln is an exception as far as like any president goes in regards of who did most for black people.
Equity and equality. It's about decency. It's about the Constitution. And we have never walked away from trying to
Zachary Colley in the chat says, "Oh no, DarkCon is a zombie because the gun he used on himself. Run for your brains." Dang it, missed my opportunity. No, it's okay, Zach.
Require equity for everyone, equality for the whole of America. But we've never accomplished it. But we've never walked away from it like he has done. It is true. The reason I got in the race is when those people, close your eyes, remember what those people look like coming out of the fields carrying torches, their veins bulging, just spewing anti-Semitic bile, and accompanied by the Ku Klux Klan. A young woman got killed. And they asked the president what he thought. He said there were very fine people on both sides. No president's ever said anything like that.
It is who's
now, second point I'd make to you is that when Floyd was killed, when Mr. Floyd was killed, there was a peaceful...
I don't think we've got to Floyd yet, so don't go expounding on your time any more than that. What's necessary, Joe?
Protest in front of the White House. What did he do? He came out of his bunker, had the military use tear gas on him so he could walk across to a church and hold up a Bible. And then what happened after that? The bishop of that very church said that it was a disgrace. The general who was with him said all he ever wants to do is divide people, not unite people at all. This is a president who has used everything as a dog whistle to try to generate racist hatred, racist division. This is a man who, in fact, you talk about helping African Americans. 1 in 1,000 African Americans has been killed because of the coronavirus. And if he doesn't do something quickly, by the end...
That's... what the fuck kind of a talking point is that? That's not special for black people as far as who has died from the coronavirus. I mean, you're not seriously going to say that there is some genetic inferiority to black people as far as catching COVID-19 goes, are you, Joe? If that's what you're getting at, well then you'd be the fucking racist. And I highly doubt that any government action or any government institute is like doing anything to make sure that black people are all grouped in buildings to make sure, for absolute damn certain, that they catch COVID-19 as compared to white people and so forth.
Of the year, 1 in 500 will have been killed. 1 in 500 African Americans. This man is the savior of African Americans. This man cares at all. This man's done virtually nothing. Look, the fact is that you have to look at what he talks about. You have to look at what he did, and what he did has been disastrous for the African American community.
So, President Trump, you have 2 minutes. Why should Americans trust you?
I don't know about what Biden said, but I do know that it's mostly old people who are dying from COVID-19. 84 says JC Armitage. Exactly, JC. He can't. Joe does not get to tokenize black people or use them as an exploitative wedge in regards to this point right here. Black people as a race are not a special case when it comes to COVID-19. It's old people, just like what you said, JC.
Over your opponent to deal with racism.
He did a crime bill, 1994, where you call them super predators, African Americans, the super predators, and they've never forgotten it. They've never forgotten it, Joe.
No, sir, it's his 2 minutes.
So you did that, and they call you a super predator, and I'm letting people out of jail now that you have treated the African American population community. You have treated the black community about as bad as anybody in this country. You did the 1990, and that's why, if you look at the polls, I'm doing better than any Republican has done in a long time, because they saw what you did. You call them super predators, and you've called them worse than that, because you look back at your testimony over the years, you've called them a lot worse than that. As far as the church is concerned, as far as the generals are concerned, we just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals. Total support.
I'll have to definitely go fact-checking and researching further as to exactly how racist Joe Biden was or is. But that is a fair point. I wonder what Joe Biden is going to say in response to that.
Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio.
By the way, Zachary Colley in the chat says, show of hands, how many of us actually buy the race card? Crickets. Exactly, Zach.
I have Portland, the sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us...
Well, I don't think law enforcement is either here nor there as far as how much that would turn off his base, his voting base. I think that's practically a non-issue, honestly.
In Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day and they put up their hands and we got back Seattle.
JC in the chat says Biden also helped to write the crime bill of 1994 that put a lot of black men into prison. Precisely, JC. I mean, if Biden is going to be talking about things that inadvertently affect black people more than other races, supposedly, because honestly I highly doubt that COVID-19 is a special case for black people, but nonetheless, if he's going to be talking about black people being inadvertently affected under Trump's watch, well then how about that thing that inadvertently affected black people disproportionately as well? Goes kind of the same way, even though neither side might have intended anything against black people, it still affected them unevenly.
Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left, and they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say it.
All right. I want to return to the question of race. Vice President Biden, after the grand jury in the Breonna Taylor case decided not to charge any of the police with homicide, you said it raises the question, quote, whether justice could be equally applied in America. Do you believe that there is a separate but unequal system of justice for blacks in this country?
Yes, there is. There's systemic injustice in this country, in education and work and in law enforcement and the way in which it's enforced. But look, the vast majority of police officers are good, decent, honorable men and women. They risk their lives every day to take care of us. But there are some bad apples, and when they occur, when they find them, they have...
This I can at least agree enough with Biden on. Well, I don't know if I would say necessarily the vast majority of police officers, but generally speaking, within regards to police officers, they might not be like upstanding, great people, but they are not automatically bad. But that's getting into the ACAB debate.
To be sorted out. They have to be held accountable. They have to be held accountable. And what I'm going to do as President of the United States is call together an entire group of people at the White House, well, everything from the civil rights group.
I wonder if the debate has ended by now, because I think my time here is getting lower and not higher as far as how behind I am. Anyway. Yeah, and that how many people are watching now? It was at 1 million earlier. Now it's at almost 250,000. I think that is people who are like just still tuned into the live stream. I think the debate is officially done. But still, here we are, folks. So let's get on with it. Get rid of no-knock rates, says Zach Ricali. I agree, Zach. I agree.
Groups to the police officers, the police chiefs, and we're going to work this out. We're going to work this out so we change the way in which we have more transparency in when these things happen. These cops aren't happy to see what happened to George Floyd. These cops...
Yeah, debate over, says Ivan's son. Okay, well, I'm a little bit behind the times, but let's keep on giving our reactions nonetheless, folks.
The cops aren't happy to see what happened to Breonna Taylor. Most don't like it, but we have to have a system where people are held accountable. And by the way, violence in response is never appropriate. Never appropriate. Peaceful protest is. Violence is never appropriate.
All right,
What is peaceful protest? When they run through the middle of the town and burn down your stores and kill people all over the place,
that
and you
is
say
not
peaceful protest?
President
No,
Trump,
it's
I'm not
not,
asking.
but you say it is.
President Trump, I'd like to continue with the
Yes,
issue
go
of
ahead,
race. I
please.
promise we're going to get to the issue of law and order
Please.
in a moment. This month, your administration directed federal agencies to end racial sensitivity training that addresses white privilege or critical race theory. Why did you decide to do that, to end racial sensitivity training? And do you believe that there is systemic racism in this country, sir?
Because it's bullshit. Long and short answer of it.
I ended it because it's racist. I ended it because a lot of people were...
And it is unironic. It is ironically enough racist in of itself, as Trump has properly pointed out.
Complaining that they were asked to do things that were absolutely insane, that it was a radical revolution that was taking place in our military, in our schools, all over the place, and you know it, and so does everybody
what
else.
Is radical,
and he would know.
What is
it was
radical
totally
about
racist.
racial sensitivity training, sir?
If you were a certain person, you had no status in life.
Well, it's not necessarily that radical, at least in my opinion. I mean, if the racial sensitivity training is basically implying that generally white people are racist, well then yeah, it is pretty radical. But actually no, yeah, I am going to give the benefit of the doubt that maybe that's what Trump is thinking, and that's what he's getting on about.
It was sort of a reversal. And if you look at the people, we were paying people hundreds of thousands of dollars to teach very bad ideas and frankly very sick ideas. And really, they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not.
Oh, I just have somebody join the call. Who is it? Who is it? Hey there, Incredible Aspie.
Hey, how you doing? About the debate, holy shit.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, especially the first 15 minutes of the debate was pretty good. I'm still, like, in the middle 30 minutes of it, or somewhere within the first hour still of it. In the later parts of the first hour anyway, so I still got quite a bit to go, but that first 15 minutes, that was pretty entertaining, where they were just pretty much snubbing each other and making quips at each other's expense, you know?
Yeah, and then it gets worse. Like, I could tell it was going bad, sorry, because I was in the room taking a test and my dad was just going, "Oh my God, Trump, shut the fuck up." You know, just like just at the top of his lungs, just shut up, Trump. It was like a school. I mean, I'm gonna vote for him, but the guy's a freaking schoolyard bully. I swear to God.
Yep, he pretty much was a jackass, as I kept on saying. Like, as the good old Barack Obama quote goes, he's a jackass.
Exactly.
By the way, just to clarify, your dad would be a Trump supporter, right?
Yeah, both my parents are, kind of.
Okay, but they were frustrated all the same by Trump, which is
my mom was actually at work. She's a flight attendant.
All right. Nate, the volunteerist in the chat, says, I tried doing the drinking game with Coca-Cola and ran out in the first 15 minutes. All right. By the way, Aspie, no guitar playing while doing this, because we're reviewing a debate right now.
Yeah, I was gonna make a joke, but anyway, it's fine. Anyway, that we all have the even though the debate, there's a lot of questions that were asked during it, a lot of things discussed, but there's one question that I think everybody is asking right now. if this debate is uploaded to Pornhub, what name do you think they'll give it?
I don't know. I don't want to. I don't want to even know.
I'm sure somebody's gonna make a. I'm not gonna watch it. I don't go to that site. But I'm not lying. I can't stand hardcore pornography. It makes me sick.
No, but you like the statistics though.
Yeah, the statistics I find hot. The statistics are great. Exactly. Oh, numbers. Oh. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that I think somebody will come up with a clever name. Somebody will upload it there, and they'll come up with a clever name. But anyway,
Ivan's son has a suggestion: ass clowns. And not bad, Ivan. But anyway,
as clowns. I thought it would be like Trump screws Biden and something along those lines. I don't know, but anyway.
Yep.
Anyway, when it came to these, so I think the area of that one area which kind of
Aspie, I'm actually like reviewing the debate as we go along here. Was you want to like give your 2 cents as we played along in the debate?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, whatever comments you have to have about future parts of the debate, save it for when we actually get into those parts of the debate. But for right now, got more debate to watch over.
We have to go back to the core values of this country. They were teaching people that our country is a horrible place, it's a racist place, and they were teaching people to hate our country. And I'm not going to allow that to happen.
Vice President Biden?
Yeah, and I totally agree with Trump. There should not be any public sector funding into that crap. If you want to teach that America is racist and so forth, go for it. That is totally within your freedom of speech, but do not do it at taxpayer-funded dollars, damn it. I mean, if you want to like teach somebody math or geography and so forth, that's one thing because that's pretty nonpartisan. But freaking hatred towards America and how bad America supposedly is, that's not nonpartisan. That's pretty freaking partisan, actually.
Remember when Milo Yiannopoulos said that feminism was cancer? Well, critical race theory is also cancer. I swear to God, I had to learn a little bit of this stuff in my schools, and I have to tell you that they act as though like discrimination is still like plays a giant role in the success of the black community, and that mild racial infractions are the reason why are just this horrible problem that needs to be addressed, which it really doesn't. Most of these things it's pretty much just something that's worthless to learn. It has no benefit. In fact, I would argue that it has an anti-benefit. Yes, certain businesses can benefit from certain diversity not quotas but standards, but it's just not. But for the military, the military public sector should not be teaching this crap because it has no benefit. All right, there's my 2 cents.
Nobody's doing that. He's the racist.
You just don't.
Here's the deal. I know a lot more about this.
Let him finish.
The fact is that there is racial insensitivity. People have to be made aware of what other people feel like, what insults them, what is demeaning to them. It's important that people know they don't want to. Many people don't want to hurt other people's feelings, but it makes a big difference. It makes a gigantic.
You know what people typically do to. You know what those things are called? Those are called social cues, Biden. And you know what people typically do here in the real world, here in normal life to pick up on social cues? We get out and actually socialize with people. We do not like go through some bullshit class on this shit.
Gigantic difference in the way a child is able to grow up and have a sense of self-esteem. It's a little bit like how this guy and his friends look down on so many people. They look down their nose on people like Irish Catholics like me and grew up in Scranton. They look down on people who don't have money. They look down on people who are of a different faith. They look down on people who are a different color. In fact, we're all...
And obviously those people should be taught otherwise, but again, do not be teaching this at the public dole.
it does not actually address that, you know. I mean, I do think there are certain areas in which people should reform their own behaviors, but that's on more of an individual level. Also that a lot of these critical race theory classes don't exactly they cause more division than what they seek to mend. And also what I would also say is that there's multiple theories on how human beings learn, because human beings typically learn from experiences, and there's like two theories on that. There's I forgot what it was called. It was like something. It was one theory that was based on the sort of that to the more primal area of human behavior that believes that human beings learn mostly from social conditioning, from from basic conditioning rather than and that higher social mental activity was completely irrelevant. However, social cognitive theory taught that human beings are in fact capable, that higher mental functions are actually relevant, and that human beings can learn from one another in a sort of in a classroom setting, that they don't exactly need to experience something in order to learn something. So what I was going to say is that over the years primal the sort of taboo against racism for so many years has pretty much made people so in America so against it that it's kind of hard to believe that there's people who hate other races just because of the color of their skin or the look of their eye. Most of it is cultural. Most of it is what I would call cultural conflict, as opposed to purely racial conflict. There is some. It is correlated with race, but it's not caused by race. Correlation does not equal causation. That's what I got to say.
Yep. And by the way, JC Armitage says in the chat, sounds like Biden is describing himself there. As far as insensitivities go, exactly, JC. But mafifis, though, she also says. And Zachary Colley says, how about we teach basic skills and prepare people for the workforce through homeschooling and private schooling? No Core 40, no mandatory courses, just flexible curriculum based on need. And yeah, and I also have to add, you may have went through those classes yourself, Aspie, but quite frankly, well, okay, not frankly, but honestly, I haven't come across that stuff myself, mostly because I've been homeschooled all my life, and when I did actually get into something that was vaguely a more publicized school, I went to trade school, and through that trade school, there was no bullshit racial sensitivity classes and whatnot. And the classes, just to clarify, that I ended up in when I went through trade school, they were some pretty diverse classes. We learned on our own to not be racially insensitive. We did not have to be taught it. We learned on our own by being surrounded, by being around those people. We didn't have to be taught it explicitly.
Yeah, the reason why most people are the one thing that really incentivizes you being sort of culturally insensitive or racially insensitive is you just being around your own race the whole time, which is sort of natural human behavior. But if you go outside of but if you're in a setting where there's a lot of people from different cultural backgrounds and different racial backgrounds, it's kind of hard to be a bigot in that scenario, because that would really complicate your life. You wouldn't be able to have any friends, wouldn't be able to interact with any, but wouldn't be able to have a normal life essentially. So it essentially incentivizes you to be because there's really no incentive for you to be that way. So that's what I say.
Yeah, being around them incentivizes you to adapt, essentially. JC Armitage says, also, I can't take Biden's cries of systemic racism seriously when he supports legislation like gun control, welfare, abortion, minimum wage, etc., things that were made to keep blacks down. And fair point, JC. They affect black people unfair. Well, okay, not unfairly. That wasn't the exact word that I was looking for. I meant unequally, statistically speaking. Anyways, but what are you saying, SB?
Well, to be fair, I don't think the welfare system was made specifically to keep black people down. I mean, whether or not you agree. I mean, this is going to give me some hate from some conservative people, but the idea of a social safety net, a small one, but I don't really think that a social safety net is the worst thing on planet Earth. A small one that incentivizes you to get out of your place in life. Not one that is I do think there are a lot of policies, such as, you know, single mothers get more money, which does incentivize people, which does incentivize, you know, bad cultural norms within the Black community. So I don't disagree with the idea of a small social safety net, but I do agree with you that there are certain policies within the welfare system which do incentivize bad behavior.
Yeah, but anyway, not to get too long-winded on the topic discussions, as those can be held another time. We're just talking more about the comments made between these two in the debates, and we still have about 38 minutes to go.
The only way we're going to bring this country together is bring everybody together. There's nothing we cannot do if we do it together. We can take this on, and we can defeat racism in America.
President Trump, sir.
During the Obama
hold hands with the communists.
Administration, there was tremendous division. There was hatred. You look at Ferguson. You go to many places. Look at Oakland. Look what happened in Oakland. Look.
Hey, Aspie, if you're going to be playing guitar while you're listening to this, can I ask you to please mute yourself?
All right.
And then when you want to add in your 2 cents, go ahead and unmute yourself. But yeah, just please keep it that way. Anyway, but yeah, I have to agree with Trump there. I mean, things were pretty divisive, especially in Obama's second term as president with Ferguson and, not Minneapolis, and Massachusetts and so on and so forth. And things have only been getting worse right now. I don't think that they're explicitly or directly because of Trump why things are so divisive, but at the same time, it hasn't changed much nonetheless, whether anyone likes it or not, and whether or not it is caused directly by Trump.
What happened in Baltimore? Look what happened. Frankly, it was more violent than what I'm even seeing now.
Oh, my
but
Lord.
the reason is that
ridiculous.
the Democrats that run these cities don't want to talk like you about law and order.
Violent
and you
crime,
still haven't mentioned.
Violent
Are you
crime.
in favor of law and order?
I'm in favor of law. You following
Are you in
it and a little
favor
bit
of law and order? Go
yes,
ahead.
I'm in favor.
You asked a question, let him finish.
Law and order. Law and order.
Let him answer.
Law and order with justice, where people get treated fairly. Okay. And the fact of the matter is, violent crime went down 17%, 15% in our administration.
All right.
It's gone up on his watch.
Went down much more than ours.
All right, we're down.
Violent crime has been going down at a regular rate for years. That's irrelevant.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I agree.
And it's been the left-wing people that have been causing all the violence lately in Portland, Seattle, and so.
Actually, I haven't seen the specific numbers about that, but I have typically seen the charts talking about how in the 90s and 2000s at least of how that Trump has crime has been typically been steadily declining worldwide. I don't know about how much that holds up in regards to the 2010s. And here, looking at 2020, I have a feeling that once the stats fully come in to the the bureaus and whatnot, and those stats are fully presentable for the world to see by 2021, 2022, and all other future years, that we are going to be looking at ourselves a spike in crime for the year 2020 as compared to 2019, 2018, 2017, and so on and so forth.
Okay. Mr. President,
every record in the
Mr. President, you're going to be very happy because we're now going to talk about law and order.
Places we had trouble were Democratic.
I mean, that's kind of relevant to the discussion right here, Chris, just to be fair to Trump.
Run cities.
That's exactly my question. There has been a dramatic increase in homicides in America this summer particularly, and you often blame that on Democratic mayors and Democratic governors, but in fact there have been equivalent spikes in Republican-led cities like Tulsa and Fort Worth. So the question is this really a party issue?
I think it's a party issue. You can bring in a couple of examples, but if you look at Chicago, what's going on in Chicago, where 53 people were shot and 8 died shot. If you look at New York, where it's going up like nobody's ever seen anything, the numbers are going up 100, 150, 200%. Crime. It is crazy what's going on. And he doesn't want to say law and order because he can't, because he'll lose his radical left supporters. And once he does that, it's over with. But if he ever got to run this country and they ran it the way he would want to run it, we would have our
run
suburbs
it
would
the
be
way-
gone. By the way,
Suburbs.
our suburbs would be gone, and you would see problems like you've
He
never
would
seen.
know a suburb unless he took a wrong turn.
Oh, I know suburbs.
He would not. I was raised.
Go ahead. Wait a minute.
I was raised in the suburbs. This is not 1950. All these dog whistles and racism don't work anymore. Suburbs are by and large integrated. There's many people today driving their kids to soccer practice and/or to black and white and Hispanic in the same car as there have been any time in
He
the
wasn't
past.
saying that.
It wasn't saying what?
He wasn't saying that there weren't a lot of. He said nothing about the racial demographics of the suburbs. He was just pointing out there's been that Antifa members have been terrorizing people in the suburbs regardless of their skin color. So.
And that it would be worse if Joe Biden completely had his way. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I got you. What you're saying right there. So yeah, a little bit. Stay on subject, Joe.
What really is a threat to the suburbs and their safety is his failure to deal with COVID. They're dying in the suburbs. His failure to deal with the environment. They're being flooded. They're being burned out because his refusal to do anything. That's why the suburbs are in trouble.
I do want to talk about this issue of law and order, though. And in the joint recommendation that came from the Biden-Bernie Sanders task force, you talked about, quote, reimagining policing. First of all, what does reimagining policing mean, and do you support?
It means.
Let me, if I might finish the question. What does reimagining policing mean, and do you support the Black Lives Matter call for community control of policing?
Look, what I support is the police having the opportunity to deal with the problems they face. And I'm totally opposed to defunding the police officers. As a matter of fact, local police.
Oh boy, he just lost the ACAB vote right there. Just saying, folks.
Yeah, when I heard him say that, I was like, oh damn, he just he's gonna get himself in trouble with a lot of our leftists after that one, and some right wing and some anarchists. I'm looking at you, S-Man. All right. That was just a joke, by the way.
Do me a favor, SBN. Don't go mentioning S-Man again.
All right, I won't.
Please.
All right, I won't.
$400 million cut in local law enforcement assistance. They need more assistance. They need, when they show up for a 9/11 call, to have someone with them as a psychologist or psychiatrist to keep them from having to use force and be able to talk people down. We have to have community policing like we had before, where the officers get to know the people in the communities. That's when crime went down. It didn't go up, it went down. And so we have to be engaged.
That's not what they're talking about, Chris. That's not what they're talking about. He's talking about defunding the police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any law support.
Look,
he has no law enforcement
That's not
support.
true.
Almost
that's
nothing.
Look.
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go ahead.
Look,
think. We have time.
We don't have time to do anything.
No, think
All right.
about it. Name one law enforcement group that came out and supported.
SB, you're not muted for your guitar playing right there.
Sorry about that.
Gentlemen, I think I'm going to take back the moderator's role, and I want to get to another subject, which is the issue of protests in many cities that have turned violent. In Portland.
Jason Armato says, I really doubt Biden's getting any love from anarchists. Yeah, I mean, regardless of the whole ACAB issue, I doubt that Biden will be getting any votes or any kind of support or likability from anarchists nonetheless. Just to be fair on that.
Oregon, especially, we had more than 100 straight days of protests, which I think you would agree. You talk about peaceful protests. Many of those turned into riots. Mr. Vice President.
Many of those turned into riots. Okay, yeah, Chris, you're starting to earn my respect here. Keep on going. Go on.
You say that people who commit crimes should be held accountable. The question I have, though, is, as the Democratic nominee, and earlier tonight you said that you are the Democratic Party right now, Have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland?
You weren't around when I made this joke, SB, but when Biden actually made that statement earlier in the debate, I am the Democratic Party. I made a joke at my 2 cents. That reminds me of Senator Palpatine from Star Wars Episode 3, where he's all like, I am the Senate.
Yeah, from which Star Wars was that? Oh, the third one.
Revenge of the Sith.
I see.
Or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, "Hey, you got to stop this. Bring in the National Guard. Do whatever it."
Wait. I'm gonna rewind it a few seconds to get the full context of this question.
You are the Democratic Party right now. Have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, "Hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you stop the days and months of violence in Portland"?
I don't hold public office now. I am a former vice president. I've made it clear.
So what? I don't hold public office myself, and yet I am still right here on my seat editing my videos saying, fuck the riots. That something must be done about them. That people should be like arming themselves to self-defend against these riots and saying even outright that I don't necessarily agree with even the National Guard getting involved. Not even federal police getting involved, but nonetheless local police arresting people for rioting and looting. That is a legitimate function of police, and whenever a police officer arrests a looter, that is a good act in my opinion, as I have stated many times. And you, Joe Biden, you might not be in public office, but you at least have some clout to call for this shit, against this shit. I mean, come on.
Made it clear in my public statements that the violence should be.
The look on his face after Chris mentions the riots. LOL, says Zach. I did not catch that, but maybe I'll have to look back or something. No,
hey,
not for right now. What are you saying?
Dude, I gotta go. Hey, dude, I gotta go. I gotta go because I gotta go get myself some dinner before all the stores close. All right.
All right. I might still be on here by the time we get back. But if you don't join again, then that's fine too.
All right. Thanks. It was good talking to you.
Yep. Thanks for coming on, SB. All right. There goes my second co-host for Strike Force News.
Prosecuted. It should be prosecuted. And anyone who.
The first co-host that I had for Strike Force News was Reckless Trucker, when unfortunately he came in just assuring that he cannot stay on because he completely forgot and he was partying with some friends, reacting to the debate and whatnot. And my 2 cents, he was a co-host for this stream, but he isn't a Strike Force News co-host. Anyway, I digress.
Commits it.
But you've never called for the people, the leader. Excuse me, sir. You had never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to bring in the National Guard and knock off 100 days of riots.
All right, Chris, bringing the thunder to Joe. Let's get it on.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the way. Look here.
Oh, really? Oh, really?
Here's the thing.
I sent in the U.S. Marshals to get the killer of the young man in the middle of this.
Shut up, Trump. Come on. Chris is already grilling him enough as it is. You do not need to invoke or interject your foot into the conversation. Sheesh.
They shot him, and for 3 days,
President Trump,
Portland wouldn't do anything. I had to send in the U.S. Marshals. They took care of business.
Go ahead, sir.
And by the way, his own former spokesperson said, riots and chaos and violence help his cause. That's what this is all about.
I don't know who said that.
I do.
Who?
I think Kellyanne Conway.
I don't think she said that.
She said that. And so
okay. Oh, geez. Whatever jackass on the right goes saying that these things help Trump's own cause, that does not mean jack diddly squat to Trump. Oh, big old fucking fat guilt by association bullcrap. I mean, yeah.
All right. But here's the point.
Go ahead.
The point is that that's what he is, keeps trying to rile everything up. He doesn't want to calm things down. Instead of going in and talking to people and saying...
Things are already not calm. I mean, Yeah, I mean, a person can do the best that they can in regards of calming things down, but to get these riots to stop and calm down, it's not going to take calm action. I mean, if you want to do anything about the riots in the very short term, it is not going to be outright calm. Although then again, I guess Biden does have a little bit of a point, because Trump is a little bit of a polarizing figure to where that he would at the same time piss off the rioters, while he's also trying, with his rhetoric, piss off the rioters, while at the same time calling for police to arrest rioters and looters.
Let's get everybody together, figure out how to deal with this. What's he do? He just pours gasoline in the fire constantly, and every single solitary time.
And to end this, button up this segment, I'm going to give you a minute to answer, sir. You have repeatedly criticized.
I have to answer his statement.
No, you have
His
repeatedly.
statement? Wait,
you have
just one second.
No, you've been talking
He
back
made
and
a
forth.
statement.
I'm asking you.
I would love to end it.
Sir.
I would love to end it. and
You
we
know, if
would
you want to
very-
switch seats.
We would very quickly.
We could do that, but
I'd
I'm
send in the National Guard, it would be over. There'd be no problem.
Okay,
But they
good.
don't want to accept the National Guard.
You have repeatedly criticized the vice president for not specifically calling out Antifa and other left-wing
That's right.
extremist groups. But are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to
Nobody quite heard that, but under his breath, Trump said sure. Just to keep that in mind, folks, in case anybody wants to be making headlines about this little segment of the debate. All the reporters, all the people who like to go for the clickbaity titles of Trump is a racist, Trump does not condemn white supremacists, and so forth. Keep your ears sharp for that part right there. He said sure. But let's also see of how much further he goes with this point.
say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland.
Kenosha? What? I have not heard any reports of legitimate white supremacists coming down in Kenosha. I've heard accusations that supposedly Kyle Rittenhouse and the people he was associated with were white supremacists, but those accusations were kind of baseless themselves, because I've also heard opposite statements saying that he does in fact not support white supremacists and so forth. The best that you got is he's a MAGA boy, or possibly anyways, or at least he vaguely supports Trump. Kyle Rittenhouse, I mean. But I don't know, maybe Chris Wallace is not as good as I thought he was, since he's invoking a race card, trying to race bait Kenosha.
Sure,
Are you
I'm willing
prepared
to do
specifically
that,
do it?
Well, go ahead.
See you later, JC Armitage. Thanks for watching as long as you did.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
You want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
White
name.
supremacists and
Who would
white
you like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud
militia.
Boys, stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing. This is a left-wing problem.
White supremacists. Antifa's an idea, not an organization.
Oh, you got it.
Not militia. That's what his.
Are you willing to condemn white supremacists and militia groups? Well, I'd be willing to condemn white supremacists personally, mostly for their racist rhetoric. Militia groups, though, there's nothing inherently wrong with militia groups, actual militia groups, as I have seen so far. Kyle Rittenhouse, I haven't seen the solid case made as to how that he is guilty. In fact, I quite damn well lean that Kyle Rittenhouse did nothing wrong. And that one Facebook post that was shared around at one point by Jack Cope, saying that, we witnessed Kyle, he was harassing us when we were just trying to peaceably go to our cars. I questioned the validity of that Facebook post that was shared around a few weeks ago in the wake of the Kenosha shooting. And also, even the person that was originally sharing around that post from Jack Cope, he admitted it himself that it's unconfirmed, the testimony of Jack Cope, and said that the only way that this could be confirmed is if an accredited journalist comes in and says, yeah, the case is firm, and Kyle Rittenhouse did in fact harass a whole bunch of innocent bystanders who was just going to their car. At that point, then you might have a case that Kyle Rittenhouse is guilty. But then I would also ask for the full context of that situation right there. But aside from that, with the point of the militia groups, inherently, there's nothing inherently wrong with these militia groups. I will say that there's stuff inherently wrong with rioters and what Antifa specifically is doing with these riots. But militia groups, they're just a reaction. They are a defense against the riots, for fuck's sake. And they, generally speaking, haven't done anything except stand on the streets with guns, trying to put an intimidating force, just a force of intimidation against anybody who would even possibly want to riot. That's about it. Aside from that, barely anything done by militia groups, generally speaking.
FBI, his FBI director
Gentlemen,
said.
Well, then you know what?
We're done, sir.
Everybody,
we're moving on to the next. We're moving.
When a bat hits you over the head, that's not an idea.
Everybody in
Antifa
your
is
administration
bad.
tells you the truth has a bad idea.
Can I tell you what?
You have no ideas.
Antifa is a dangerous,
All right,
radical
gentlemen,
group.
we're now moving on to the Trump
And
and
you ought to be
Biden
careful with
records.
them. They'll overthrow you.
When
in
a
2
president,
seconds.
I'm going to ask a question. When the president seeks a second term, it is generally a referendum on his record. But Vice President Biden, you like to quote one of your dad's sayings, which is, don't compare me to the Almighty, compare me to the alternative. And in this case, sir, you are the alternative. Looking at both of your records, I'm going to ask each of you, why should voters elect you president over your opponent? In this segment, President Trump, you go first, 2 minutes.
Because there has never been an administration or president who has done more than I've done in a period of 3.5 years. And that's despite the impeachment hoax. And you
Insert your ego out of this debate, Trump. Crying out loud. Whenever he gets all egomaniacal, it just makes me sick.
You saw what happened today with Hillary Clinton, where it was a whole big con job. But despite going through all of these things, where I had to fight both flanks and behind me and above, there has never been an administration that's done what I've done. The greatest, before COVID came in, the greatest economy in history, lowest unemployment numbers. Everything was good. Everything was going. And by the way, there was unity going to happen. People were calling me for the first time in years. They were calling and they were saying, it's time maybe, and then what happened? We got hit, but now we're building it back up again. A rebuilding of the military, including Space Force and all of the other things. A fixing of the VA, which was a mess under him. 308,000 people died because they didn't have proper health care. It was a mess. And we now got a 91% approval rating at the VA, our vets. We take care of our vets. But we've rebuilt our military. The job that we've done, and I'll tell you something, some people say maybe the most important. By the end of the first term, I'll have approximately 300 federal judges and Court of Appeals judges, 300, and hopefully 3 great Supreme Court justices. That is a record, the likes of which very few people, and you know one of the reasons I'll have so many judges? Because President Obama and him left me 128 judges to fill. When you leave office, you don't leave any judges. That's like, you just don't do that. They left 128 openings, and if I were a member of his party, because they have a little different philosophy, I'd say if you left us 128 openings, you can't be a good president, you can't be a good vice president. But I want to thank you because it gives us almost, it'll probably be above that number by the end of this term. 300 judges, it's a record.
Looking at both your records, why should voters elect you president as opposed to President Trump? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Under this president, we become weaker, sicker, poorer, more divided, and more violent. When I was vice president, we inherited a recession. I was asked to fix it. I did. We left him a booming economy, and he caused the recession.
Ivan's son says the alternative of the Almighty is Satan. What kind of question is that? Exactly, Ivan. How can anyone compare themselves to God who would try? Both these guys have egos. Indeed, Ivan's son. Although, if I was to give my own honest take, I think that Trump has a bigger ego, or at least shows his ego more than Biden does.
session with regard to being weaker. The fact is that I've gone head to head with Putin and made it clear to him we're not going to take any of his stuff. He's Putin's puppy. He still refuses to even say anything to Putin about the bounty on the heads of American soldiers.
Your son got $3.5 million.
And by the way, my son.
Wait a minute. Mr. President, your campaign agreed to both sides would get 2-minute answers uninterrupted. Well, your side agreed to it, and why don't you observe what your campaign agreed to as a ground rule, okay, sir?
He never keeps his word.
Yes, please, Chris. Yes, please.
No, I'm not asking. That was a rhetorical question.
Can you
Go
add
ahead,
back
sir.
30 seconds?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
you may have.
All right.
Go ahead.
So, thirdly, we're poor. The billionaires have gotten much more wealthy by a tune of over $300 to $400 billion more just since COVID. You in the home, you got less. You're in more trouble than you were before. In terms of being more violent, when we were in office, there were 15% less violence in America than there is today. He's president of the United States. It's on his watch. And with regard to more divided, the nation can't stay divided. We can't be this way. And speaking of my son, the way you talk about the military, the way you talk about them being...
Well, we were like long off your son for quite a while now, Joe. I mean, don't go rewinding back to that, especially a non-subject like that, a non-substantive issue like that. Come on. Shit.
Losers and being and just being suckers. My son was in Iraq. He spent a year there. He got the Bronze Star. He got the Conspicuous Service Medal. He was not a loser. He was a patriot, and the people left behind there were heroes.
Really?
And I resent.
Are you talking
like
about
hell.
Hunter? Are you talking about Hunter?
I'm talking about my son, Beau Biden. You're talking about.
I don't know Beau. I know Hunter.
Yeah,
Hunter
you know
got
Beau.
thrown. Hunter got thrown.
And even when he was like trying to rewind back to the non-substantive issue, he could not get it right as to who that Trump was originally attacking. Joe, you dumbass. You should have known better of who that Don was referring to right there. This is a clown show, y'all. A complete clown show.
Thrown out of the military. He was thrown out, dishonorably discharged.
That's not true. He
For
wasn't dishonorably
cocaine
discharged.
use. And he didn't have a job until you became vice president. Once you
None
became
of that
vice
is
president,
true.
he made a fortune in Ukraine, in China, in Moscow,
That is simply
and various
not
other places.
true.
He
My
made
son,
a fortune.
my son,
and he didn't have a job.
My son, like a lot of people we know at home, had a drug problem. He's overtaken it. He's fixed it. He's worked on it, and I'm proud of him.
But why was he given tens of millions of dollars?
Nobody cares about this within a debate. Come on, Joe. Just make a town hall speech about how reflecting back on the attacks that Trump has did against your family. That's what you should have done instead of just wasting debate airtime on this crap.
Wasn't given tens of millions of dollars. That is totally,
President Trump, we've already been
totally discredited.
We've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial.
So do I.
Exactly, Chris. Exactly. Thank you. Damn it.
Well, you know, as the moderator, sir, I'm going to make a judgment call here.
Gets $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow.
Let's talk about
not true.
Gentlemen,
that report is totally discredited. Mitt Romney on that committee said it wasn't worth taxpayers' money, that report. It was written for political reasons.
You know, I'd like to talk about climate change.
So would I.
Well, then again, Trump doesn't care about Romney at freaking all. So that point was empty as far as a rebuttal against Trump.
Okay. The forest fires in the West are raging now. They have burned millions of acres. They have.
I would have to actually read further into this, but I've been like running across articles consistently talking about how those are actually started by an arsonist. But yeah, like I said, I'm gonna put a pin in that topic for right now.
Have displaced hundreds of thousands of people. When state officials there blame the fires on climate change, Mr. President, you said, I don't think the science knows. Over your 4 years, you have pulled the U.S. out of the Paris Climate Accord. You have rolled back a number of Obama environmental records.
The Union and the Constitution forever. This little sign up here above them, this debate is a mockery of that saying right there. Neither of these two are constitutional, and neither of them are going to act constitutional once either of them wins. Neither of them have acted constitutional in their history of, of politics. And neither of them are going to be a uniting force for the country.
What do you believe about the science of climate change, and what will you do in the next 4 years to confront it?
I want crystal clean water and air. I want beautiful clean air. We have now the lowest carbon.
Okay.
If you look at our numbers right now, we are doing phenomenally.
I don't know about that.
Our businesses aren't put out of commission. If you look at the Paris Accord, it was a disaster from our standpoint, and people
it was
are
a paper
actually
tiger, but
very happy about what's going on because our businesses are doing well. As far as the fires are concerned, you need forest management in addition to everything else. The forest.
I was kind of almost expecting him to invoke the arsonist right then and there, whether or not the arsonist was actually factual as far as what the cause of these fires are. Oh, good grief. Climate change? Really, says Zachary Cully? Exactly. They're talking about this in connection to the wildfires going on the West Coast. Global warming will melt the polar ass caps unless we all buy a girly, prissy Prius immediately, says Night Shift 10,000. Exactly, Night Shift.
Floors are loaded up with trees, dead trees that are years old, and they're like tinder, and leaves and everything else. You drop a cigarette in there, the whole forest burns down. You've got to have forest management.
What do you
You've got to have cuts.
What do you believe about the science of climate change, sir?
I believe that we have to do everything we can to have immaculate air, immaculate water, and do whatever else we can that's good. You know, we're planting 1 billion trees, the Billion Tree Project, and it's very exciting.
You believe
for a lot of people.
that human...
Aircraft Sparky in the chat. This debate was a shit show. Indeed it was, especially for the good portion of the first part there, Sparky. And by the way, thanks for joining the chat. I guess I take it that your live stream reviewing the debate is over then? But anyway, I still got about 22 minutes left, so let's go.
Pollution, greenhouse gas emissions contributes to the global warming of this planet?
I think a lot of things do, but I think to an extent, yes. I think
Trump won overall, but damn it, man, let the elderly, mentally incapable idiot speak. Yes, indeed. Yeah, I did it live. I caught the notification. I think notification. Well, no, I did not come across the notification. I actually came across it in my homepage for YouTube.
To an extent, yes, but I also think we have to do better management of our forests. Every year, I get the call, California's burning, California's burning. If that was cleaned, if you had forest management, good forest management, you wouldn't be getting those calls. You know, in Europe, they have forest cities. They're called forest cities. They maintain their forests. They manage their forests. I was with the head of a major country. It's a forest city. He said, sir...
Trump is actually doing a whole lot better on the climate change question than I thought. I mean, I think Chris was like more precisely trying to ask Trump about what does he think about the science of climate change, not what is he going to do about climate change. But nonetheless, he's addressing this a little bit differently than I thought he would have. He's not going on so far about it being a complete and utter, I don't know, China hoax, for example, or anything else like that. So this is a little bit surprising.
We have trees that are...
And slightly uplifting, just a little bit.
Far more, they ignite much easier than California. There shouldn't be that problem. I spoke with the governor about it. I'm getting along very well with the governor. But I said, you know, at some point, you can't every year have hundreds of thousands of acres of land just burned to the ground.
But, sir,
that's burning down because of a lack of management.
But, sir, if you believe in the science of climate change, why have you rolled back the Obama Clean Power Plan, which limited carbon emissions in power plants? Why have you relaxed?
Because it's intervening into the economy and people's lives. That's how I would address it personally. But I don't think Trump is going to. I don't think Trump is principled enough in that area in order to give that kind of response. But let's see what his response is.
It was driving energy prices through the sky.
Why have you?
Well, okay, yeah, that's a fair point too. That's the more practical side rather than the ethical side that he was addressing the question right there.
Relaxed fuel economy standards that are going to create more pollution from cars
Well,
and
not
trucks.
really, because what's happening is the car is much less expensive and it's a much safer car, and you're talking about a tiny difference. And then what would happen, because of the cost of the car, you would have at least double and triple the number of cars purchased. We have the old slugs out there that are 10, 12 years old. If you did that, the car would be safer. It would be much cheaper by
But
$3,500.
in the case of California, they've simply
No,
ignored
but you would take a lot of
your
cars
roadmap.
off the market because people would be able to afford a car. Now, and by the way, we're going to see how that turns out.
Nuclear power, anyone? Asks Zachary Colley. Exactly, Zach. That's what how he should be addressing this question more specifically.
But a lot of people agree with me, many people. The car has gotten so expensive because they have computers all over the place for an extra little bit of gasoline. And, and I'm okay with electric cars too. I think I'm all for electric cars. I've given big incentives for electric cars. But what they've done in California is just crazy.
Vice President Biden, I'd like you to respond to the president's climate change record, but I also want to ask you about a concern. You proposed $2 trillion in green jobs. You talk about new limits, not abolishing, but new limits on fracking, ending the use of fossil fuels to generate electricity by 2035, and zero net emission of greenhouse gases by 2050. The president says a lot of these things would tank the economy and cost millions of jobs.
He's absolutely wrong, number one. Number two, if in fact, during our administration, the Recovery Act, I was in charge, able to bring down the cost of renewable energy to cheaper than or as cheap as coal and gas and oil. Nobody's going to build another
Have a good night, Scorch in the chat.
coal-fired plant in America. No one's going to build another oil-fired plant in America. They're going to move to renewable energy, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that we are able to take the federal fleet and turn it into a fleet that's run on their electric vehicles. Making sure that we can do that, we're going to put 500,000 charging stations in all of the highways that we're going to be building in the future. We're going to build an economy that, in fact, is going to provide for the ability of us to take 4 million buildings and make sure that they, in fact, are weatherized in a way that, in fact, they'll emit significantly less gas and oil because the heat will not be going out. There's so many things that we can do now.
I hate to be a stereotype here, people, but I think it's a fair question. How are you going to pay for it, Joe? Like, this is all a fluffy, fuzzy idea right here, but how are you going to pay for it? Because this sounds expensive as fuck. I mean, the Green New Deal that was proposed by AOC was expensive as it was. It would cost like $9 trillion a year for the first 10 years that it be implemented. I don't know if Joe's plan would be as expensive as that, but I can only imagine it'd still be pretty fucking expensive.
To create thousands and thousands of jobs. We can get to net zero in terms of energy production by 2035. Not only not costing people jobs.
Net zero in terms of energy production. I think he meant to refer to we can get net zero carbon emissions on the energy production side, but that was just sloppy wording on his part. I just wanted to point out. Because somebody could almost take that to mean that, Biden wants there to be a net zero in energy production. Doesn't want any energy to be produced for people to use. Oh boy. Biden is like anti-power. He wants us to literally live in the Stone Ages.
Creating jobs. Creating millions of good paying jobs. Not $15 an hour, but prevailing wage. By having a new infrastructure that in fact is green. And the first thing I will do, I will rejoin the Paris Accord.
A net zero will never happen. Exactly, Sparky.
I will join the Paris Accord because with us out of it, look what's happening. It's all falling apart. And talk about someone who has no relationship with foreign policy. Brazil, the rainforests of Brazil are being torn down, are being ripped down. More carbon is absorbed in that rainforest than every bit of carbon that's emitted in the United States. Instead of doing something about that, I would be gathering up and making sure we had the countries of the world coming up with $20 billion and say, here's $20 billion. Stop tearing down the forest. And if you don't, then you're going to have significant economic consequences.
What about the argument that President Trump basically...
You're going to give $20 billion to Brazil to incentivize them to not tear down the forest? I don't know if I approve of that, honestly. I mean, it's bad enough that we give foreign aid as it already is, but that... oh, God. What am I talking about? Any politician, any president is going to be a big spender. Obviously, they're going to make the proposal of big spending packages. And to be fair, $20 billion is kind of small in the grand scheme of things of how big people's spending plans could be. The technology does not exist, Aircraft Sparky says. Exactly. Why hasn't it gone to clean energy before, Biden asks Zachary. That is a fair question.
Basically says that you have to balance environmental interests and economic interests, and he's drawn his line.
Well, he hadn't drawn a line. He still, for example, make sure that he wants to make sure that methane's not a problem. You can now emit more methane without it being a problem. Methane. This is a guy who says that you don't have to have mileage standards for automobiles that exist now. This is the guy who says that, well, the fact that it's all true. And here's the deal.
He's talking about the Green New Deal, and it's not $2 billion or $20 billion, as you said. It's $100 trillion.
I'm talking about
where they want to rip down.
Well, it's not quite 100 trillion. It's more like 90 trillion. And I'm pretty sure that Trump is trying to refer to over the next 10 years after it passing, because no way would it cost like 100 trillion per year. But nonetheless, I thought I'd just get kind of nitpicky and kind of fact check Trump on that point.
Buildings and rebuild the building.
No,
it's the dumbest, most ridiculous. Where airplanes are out of business, where two-car systems are out, where they want to take out.
And that's assuming if Biden's plan is something along the same lines as AOC's.
But the cows too, that's not true either, right? This is a 100 trillion. Look, that's more money than our country could make in 100 years if we're going to.
The case.
All right, let me
destroy our
because
country.
I actually wait a minute, sir.
I agree. I agree, Trump. I agree that implementing a big-time Green New Deal spending package, it would completely hurt and devastate the economy. But then again, so is giving stimulus packages for people in regards to the lockdown and all the other spending shit that you have implemented and shoehorned yourself. Trump?
Actually have studied your plan, and it includes upgrading 4 million buildings, weatherizing 2 million homes over 4 years, building 1.5 million energy-efficient homes. So the question becomes, the president is saying, I think some people who support the president would say that sounds like it's going to cost a lot of money and hurt the economy.
What it's going to do is going to create thousands and millions of jobs, good-paying jobs.
Let him finish, sir.
Aircraft Sparky says stimulus package is not a thing the government is responsible for. I don't know what you're trying to actually get at there, Sparky, because it completely is something that the government is responsible for. What is done with that stimulus money after it's given to citizens, businesses, and whatnot, yeah, it's not responsible for what the government is not responsible for what is done with that money after it's already given, but the government is responsible for giving it in general. And that's what I'm getting at primarily.
He doesn't know how to do that.
$100 billion.
The fact is, it's going to create millions of good-paying jobs, and these tax incentives for people to weatherize, which he wants to get.
Stimulus packages is not a thing the government is responsible for. Read the Constitution. Seriously, read the Constitution. No, they aren't. This does not make any freaking sense. I mean, for one thing, I don't recall. I have read the Constitution. And I don't recall anything talking about stimulus packages in regards of this way or that way of what the government's job is on that front. But even if I was to say that, constitutionally speaking, the government is not supposed to be responsible for stimulus packages, nonetheless, that doesn't matter, because even if there is something in the Constitution that goes against stimulus packages, the government giving out stimulus packages, that doesn't change the fact that the government is still giving away stimulus packages nonetheless. So if there is something in the Constitution going against that, well then not only is the government being big time spenders in that regards, but they're also being flat out unconstitutional, so it's a double negative. The articles explain what the government can and cannot do. Well, the government doesn't always follow the Constitution. The government has absolutely no authority to hand out money to people, but yet that's what the government is doing nonetheless. In fact, the federal government did not shut down the country. The states did that. I agree. As I've stated earlier in this stream, by the way, Sparky. When did politicians care about the Constitution? Asked Zachary Colley. Aircraft Sparky says you're not wrong, Zachary Colley, which was exactly what my point was that I just stated a few seconds earlier, Sparky. And yeah, like I said earlier in this stream, I stated specifically that it's mostly the states that is handling the shutdowns and whatnot. I wasn't here for the entire stream, says Sparky. Well, fair enough. But anyway, I'm not going to try to argue with the chat too much, because I still have like 15 freaking minutes to go with this, and I have work in the morning. I want to get through this.
Get rid of. It's going to make the economy much safer. Look how much we're paying now to deal with the hurricanes. By the way, he has an answer for hurricanes. He said maybe we should drop a nuclear weapon on them. They may.
I never said that.
What? Look, I know that people like to think of Trump as a cartoon villain, but this is on a full another level right here. I don't even recall that being a statement from Trump. Ever. Not even vaguely. I would have at least come across at least one video, one article. Oh my gosh. This is stupid. Seriously, Joe, I want to call bullshit on that front.
He did say
you made it up.
And here's the deal.
You make up.
We are going to be in a position where we can create hard, good jobs by making sure the environment is clean and we all are in better shape. We spend.
What? Those don't correlate. Those don't inherently correlate with each other. Creating. If you're going to try to make sure that the environment is clean, that ain't always going to guarantee that there's going to be a net gain or net growth in jobs. Well, anyway, I digress. Maybe I'm reading too much into that statement.
Billions of dollars now. Billions of dollars on floods, hurricanes, rising seas. We're in real trouble. Look what's happened just in the Midwest with these storms that come through and wipe out entire sections and counties in Iowa. They didn't happen before. They're because of global warming. We make up 15% of the world's problem. We, in fact, but the rest of the world, we've got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into.
I was about to say that I did not hear anything about that in regards of Iowa, but then again, maybe those stories about storms coming through and coming through Iowa, maybe that was only about as much publicized as the mild hurricane force winds. Well, not mild, excuse me. Forget that I said mild. The hurricane force winds that gone through Utah about 2-3 weeks ago that I had read up about.
Back into the Paris Accord.
All right, gentlemen.
Wait a minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does. India does. They all do. We're supposed to be good. And by the way, he made a couple of statements. The Green New Deal is $100 trillion.
That is
not
not
$20
my
billion.
plan.
That's
the Green
well,
New
you want to
Deal
rebuild every
is
building.
not my plan.
I want to rebuild every.
If he knew anything about, if he knew anything about.
Statement about the military. He said I said something about the military. He and his friends made it up, and then they went with it. I never said it.
Okay.
That is
what
not
he
true.
did
Sir,
is he
you're done in
said
this segment.
he called the military
Mr. Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
and he
did
said
not
it on
say
tape.
that.
He said
Mr.
stupid
Please,
bastards. He
sir,
said it.
stop.
I would never
I
say
would
that
Play
to the
it.
military.
Play it.
Wait. Okay, we're getting on the stupid bastards comment. You are not getting away with that lie, Joe. If you're going to deny saying that, you're not getting away with that because I explicitly heard that clip myself. You called them stupid bastards. You're not getting away with that, Joe. You lying idiot. Okay, I want to just to rewind that just one more time.
The rest of the world, we've got to get them to come along. That's why we have to get back into the Paris Accord.
All right, gentlemen.
Wait a minute, Chris. So why didn't he do it for 47 years? You were vice president. Why didn't you get the world? China sends up real dirt into the air. Russia does. India does. They all do. We're supposed to be good. And by the way, he made a couple of statements. The Green New Deal is $100 trillion.
That is
not
not
20
my
billion.
plan.
That's
the Green
you
New
want to
Deal
rebuild every
is
building.
not my plan.
I want to rebuild every.
If he knew anything about, if he knew anything
He made a
about,
statement about the military. He said I said something about the military. He and his friends made it up, and then they went with it. I never said it.
Okay.
That is
what
not
he
true.
did
Sir,
is he
you're done
said
in this segment.
he called the military
Mr. Vice President,
stupid bastards.
I
and he
did
said
not
it on
say
tape. He said
Mr.
stupid
Please,
bastards. He
sir,
said it.
stop.
I would never
I
say
would
that
play
to
it.
the military.
Play it.
Yep. Indeed. Biden, you're not getting away with that. You lying asshole.
Go ahead,
You're
Mr.
on
Vice
tape.
President. Answered his final question.
The final question is, I can't remember which of all his rantings.
I'm having a little trouble myself, but and about the economy and about this question of what it's going to cost.
The economy.
I mean, the Green New Deal and the idea of what your environmental
Green New
changes
Deal,
will do.
The Green New Deal will pay for itself as we move forward. We're not going to build plants that, in fact, are great polluting plants.
So do you
We're going to
support
build
the Green New Deal?
Pardon me?
Do you support?
No, I don't support the Green New Deal.
You don't? Oh, well, that's a big statement.
I
That
support
means you
the
just lost the radical left.
I
That's
support
you
the
don't.
Biden plan that I put forward.
Okay.
If I remember right, he endorses the Green New Deal in a few minutes. All right, well, we'll keep listening, Sparky.
Biden plan, which is different than what he calls the radical Green New Deal.
All right, gentlemen, final segment, election integrity. As we meet tonight, millions of Americans are receiving mail-in ballots or going to vote early. How confident should we be that this will be a fair election, and what are you prepared to do over the next 5+ weeks, because it'll not only be to Election Day, but also counting some ballots, mail-in ballots after Election Day. What are you prepared to do to reassure the American people that the next president will be the legitimate winner of this election? In this final segment, Mr. Vice President, you go first.
Prepared to let people vote. They should go to iwillvote.com, decide how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, and what means by which they're going to vote. His own Homeland Security Director, and as well as the FBI Director, says there is no evidence at all that mail-in ballots are a source of being manipulated and cheating. They said that. The fact is that there are going to be millions of people because of COVID that are going to be voting by mail-in ballots, like he does, by the way. He sits behind the Resolute desk and sends his ballot to Florida, number one. Number two, we're going to make sure that those people who want to vote in person are able to vote because enough poll watchers are there to make sure they can socially distance. The polls are open on time, and the polls stay open until the votes are counted. And this is all about trying to dissuade people from voting because he's trying to scare people into thinking that it's not going to be legitimate. Show up and vote. You will determine the outcome of this election. Vote, vote.
All right, and I gonna basically laughing at him doing this whole, voter turnout ad sort of thing that he goes doing with his knife hand towards the camera sort of thing. If any time was right to be doing this whole voter turnout ad sort of thing, it is right now. Whereas earlier when he did that, they were asking his opinion about the court and the filibuster, and he evaded that question and decided to do this whole shtick earlier, which was completely inconvenient timing.
Vote. If you're able to vote early in your state, vote early. If you're able to vote in person, vote whatever way is the best way for you, because he cannot stop you from being able to determine the outcome of this election. And in terms of whether or not, when the votes are counted, and they're all counted, that...
I'm surprised he's not going the whole Russia route, says Zachary Colley. Exactly, Zach. And in fact, if anything, Trump was going on more about Russia than Biden by trying to invoke Biden's own son, which was really, in my honest opinion, quite a dirty tactic on Trump's part. He shouldn't have done that. It was irrelevant. It was completely out of left field, the timing that he did it. He really shouldn't have, in my opinion, invoked Hunter Biden.
Will be accepted. If I win, that will be accepted. If I lose, that'll be accepted. But by the way, if in fact he says he's not sure what he's going to accept, well, let me tell you something. It doesn't matter, because if we get the votes, it's going to be all over. He's going to go. He can't stay in power. It won't happen. It won't happen. So vote. Just make sure you understand you have it in your control to determine what this country is going to look like the next 4 years. Is it going to change, or are you going to get 4 more years of these lies?
Mr. President, 2 minutes.
So when I listened to Joe talking about a transition, there's been no transition from when I won. I won that election. And if you look at crooked Hillary Clinton, if you look at all of the different people, there was no transition, because they came after me trying to do a coup. They came after me spying on my campaign. They started from the day I won, and even before I won, from the day I came down the escalator with our First Lady. They were a disaster. They were a disgrace to our country, and we've caught them. We've caught them all. We've got it all on tape. We've caught them all. And by the way, you gave the idea for the Logan Act against General Flynn. You better take a look at that, because we caught you in a sense, and President Obama was sitting in the...
This might be more relevant towards the subject and issue and question brought up as far as transition to power goes. Just in my opinion. This whole thing about Flynn, I don't know. Well, I'm going to be honest. I do not know the full story about Michael Flynn. I probably should like read up at least 1 or 2 articles about it. But nonetheless, yeah, if Michael Flynn has a lot to do with, in regards of people trying to like sabotage the inauguration of Trump back in 2017, late 2016 and early 2017, well then fine, yeah, it's a legitimate timing to bring that up, the whole Michael Flynn stuff. Nonetheless.
Office, he knew about it too, so don't tell me about a free transition. As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster.
But does that mean that you should like be in turn acting like a complete and utter hypocrite and just if Biden does win, decide to be all like, no, I'm not giving up the reins of power to anyone because they done me dirty 4 years ago, so I'm gonna do them dirty right now?
A solicited ballot, okay, solicited is okay. You're soliciting, you're asking, they send it back, you send it back. I did that. If you have an unsolicited, they're sending millions of ballots all over the country. There's fraud. They found them in creeks. They found...
Trump never said that, said Sparky, and I never said that he said that. I'm just saying that Trump is not exactly being direct within regards of, you know, within regards of the question of transitioning of power.
Some with the name Trump just happen to have the name Trump.
And that's the question that's still purveying people's minds, nonetheless. Regardless if Trump actually said, I will refuse to transition power if I lose.
Trump just the other day in a waste paper basket. They're being sent all over the place. They sent 2 in a Democrat area. They sent out 1,000 ballots. Everybody got 2 ballots. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. The other thing, it's nice on November 3rd, you're watching and you see who won the election. And I think we're going to do well because people are really happy with the job we've done. But you know what? We won't know. We might not know for months because these ballots are going to be all over. Take a look at what happened in Manhattan. Take a look at what happened in New Jersey. Take a look at what happened in Virginia and other places. They're not losing 2%, 1%, which, by the way, is too much. An election could be won or lost with that. They're losing 30 and 40%. It's a fraud. And it's a shame. And can you imagine where they say you have to have your ballot in by November 10th? November 10th. That means that's 7 days after the election, in theory, should have been announced.
Okay.
We have major states with that,
sir,
all run by Democrats.
2 minutes is 2 minutes.
All run by Democrats. It's
President Trump,
it's a rigged election.
you're going to be able to continue. You have been charging for months that may.
I'm just mostly listening here, folks. I don't have a whole lot to say in response. I hear all the arguments, or vaguely hear all the arguments against mail-in ballots, and I'm definitely going to have to be reading into it of how much of a sham I think, and form my own opinion about how much of a sham that I think it is or not.
Mail-in balloting is going to be a disaster. You say it's rigged, that it's going to lead to fraud. But in 2018, in the last midterm election, 31 million people voted mail-in voting. That was a quarter, more than a quarter of all the voters that year cast their ballots by mail. Now that millions of mail-in ballots have gone out, what are you going to do about it? And are you counting on the Supreme Court, including a Justice Barrett, to settle any dispute?
Yeah, I think I'm counting on them to look at the ballots, definitely. I don't think I hope we don't need them in terms of the election itself. But for the ballots, I think so. Because what's happening is incredible. I read today, where at least 1% of the ballots for 2016 were invalidated. They take them, we don't like them, we don't like them.
But what
they
are you
throw
going to
them
do
out
about it?
left
There
and
are
right.
millions of ballots going out
What
right
you
now.
do
What
is
are you
you
gonna
go.
Don't care at this point. Either way, whoever wins, it'll be the same old routine of any presidential term, says Zach. Yeah.
Go and vote. You do a solicited ballot, and that's okay, or you go and vote.
I'm asking you about the fact that millions of people.
You go and vote. You go and vote,
but
like
what I'm
they
saying is, what are you
like they
gonna do
used
about
to
the
in
fact
the
that
old.
millions of people.
You either do, Chris, a solicited ballot where you're sending it in, they're sending it back, and you're sending. They have mailmen with lots of it. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia. Mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our country.
There is no.
This is not.
There is no.
This is not going to end well.
There is
Okay.
no
This
evidence
is
of that.
not going
Vice
to
President
end well.
Biden.
5 states
fact,
have had
go ahead,
mail-in
sir.
ballots for the last decade or more. 5, including 2 Republican states. And you don't have to solicit the ballot. It's sent to you. It's sent to your home. What they're saying is that it has to be a postmark by the time, by election day. If it doesn't get in till the 7th, 8th, 9th, it still should be counted. He's just afraid of counting the votes because
You're
he knows
wrong.
the outcome.
You're wrong.
I want to continue with you on this, Vice President Biden. Because
Chris, he's so wrong when he makes a statement like that.
Excuse me.
By the way, yeah, I'm making no real commentary about this, and just moving along because I want to just get this over with. And like I said, I cannot hardly make a educated comment about mail-in ballots.
Vice President Biden, the biggest problem, in fact, over the years with mail-in voting has not been fraud historically. It has been that sizable numbers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of ballots are thrown out because they have not been properly filled out, or there is some other irregularity, or they missed the deadline. So the question I have is, are you concerned that the Supreme Court with a Justice Barrett will settle any dispute?
I'm concerned that any court would settle this because here's the deal. When you get a ballot and you fill it out, you're supposed to have an affidavit. If you didn't know, you have someone say that this is me. You should be able to, if in fact you can verify that's you before the ballot is thrown out, that's sufficient to be able to count the ballot because someone made a mistake and not dotting the correct I.
By the way, I'm noticing that my footage is being kind of choppy. To everybody who is listening in the chat right now, error. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, viewer, blah 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 blah. But yeah. Anyway, to all people listening in the chat, am I sounding choppy? I mean, if the audio is at least coming in smoothly as opposed to the footage, well then I'm not going to complain that much. But I'm still noticing that my footage is coming in kind of choppy nonetheless. As long as you can hear me smoothly, as long as you can also hear the debate smoothly, that's what matters mostly.
Who they voted for, testify, say who they voted for, say it's you. That is totally legitimate.
All right.
Excuse me, Chris, when you have 80 million ballots.
Gentlemen, I have a final.
Check your video outputs. Audio is fine, says Aircraft Sparky. Okay, that's good. Check your video output, says Sparky. I'm definitely going to have to do some experimentation on OBS. Honestly, I'm not on Streamlabs right now because Streamlabs seems to act the most retarded with me in regards of setting up streaming. Whereas regular OBS Studio, it seems to work a little bit smoothly for me. More smooth for me anyways. But yeah, Sparky, if you don't mind, sometime I would like to have you on a private call possibly to talk about tutoring on OBS setup because I'm still a complete and utter noob at it overall. Video bitrate causes the choppiness. Alright. I'll have to look into the setting that goes talking about video bitrate. Regular OBS is more stable. Alright, I'll remember that definitely for in the future. To only use regular OBS as opposed to Streamlabs. Although the biggest reason why I've been trying to use Streamlabs is because I hear that even smaller channels who are like haven't hit 1,000 subscribers yet can receive donations through Streamlabs as opposed to YouTube Super Chats. Yeah, man, whenever you want. Alright? Well, not tonight, obviously, because it's already getting late, but sometime. Definitely sometime. I'll DM you sometime in the future whenever I feel like I'm ready for that, Sparky.
And swamping the system. You know it can't be done. You know it can't. And already there's been
so now,
5 more minutes.
Gentlemen, the final question is, in 8 states, we can keep talking. In 8 states, election workers are prohibited, currently by law, 8 states, from even beginning to process ballots, even take them out of the envelopes and flatten them until Election Day. That means that it's likely, because there's going to be a huge increase in mail-in balloting, that we are not going to know on election night who the winner is, that it could be days, it could be weeks,
could be months,
until we find out who the new president is. So first for you, sir, finally for the vice president, I hope neither of you will interrupt the other. Will you urge your supporters to stay?
Your wish is the same as mine, and that wish is not going to be granted, Chris. Let's be honest.
Stay calm during this extended period, not to engage in any civil unrest, and will you pledge tonight that you will not declare victory until the election has been independently certified? President Trump, you go first.
I'm urging my supporters to go into the polls and watch very carefully, because that's what has to happen.
That wasn't the question, jackass.
As you know, today there was a big problem. In Philadelphia, they went in to watch. They're called poll watchers, a very safe, very nice thing. They were thrown out. They weren't allowed to watch. You know why? Because bad things happen in Philadelphia, bad things. And I am urging my people. I hope it's going to be a fair election. If it's a fair election, I am 100% on board. But if I see tens of thousands of ballots being manipulated, I can't go along with that. And I'll tell you what, from a common...
Okay, that almost seems to be an implied statement. Okay, he's saying if there are ballots manipulated, which almost seems to be an implied statement that I will not go peaceably. I mean, it's not explicit, so I'm not meaning to like straw man or put words in Trump's mouth, but it almost seems to be an implication right there that he will not go peaceably if he suspects that the election was rigged or whatever. But all the same, one could ask the question: should a president go if it really was rigged? If it looks like that the vote has literally been tampered with? I don't know. That would be a conversation for another time entirely.
Does that mean you're going to tell your people to take to the street?
It means you have a fraudulent election. You're sending out 80 million ballots. They're not equipped to... These people aren't equipped.
He is saying he will challenge the election just like Bush and Gore. Fair enough, Sparky. I mean, I suspect nonetheless that is what he'll do. But, yeah... Okay, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe that's what he was trying to imply, that he'll challenge it in a legal proceeding sort of way, rather than just hunker down in a bunker and refuse to give up the election entirely. But nonetheless,
to handle it, number one. Number two, they cheat. They cheat. Hey, they found ballots in a waste paper basket 3 days ago, and they all had the name military ballots. They were military. They all had the name Trump on them.
Vice President
You think
Biden,
that's good?
Vice President Biden, final question.
That's definitely something that's going to get fact-checked by the fact-checkers, that statement there from Trump.
For you, will you urge your supporters to stay calm while the vote is counted, and will you pledge not to declare victory until the election is independently certified?
Yes, and here's the deal. They count the ballots as you.
Kudos to Biden for at least giving a direct, straight answer to that, saying yes, and then giving the further explanation into his answer. That's the type of answers that more people should be giving when being asked a question. Is the direct answer, especially if it's a yes or no type of question, is the direct answer and then the explanation for your answer.
Pointed out, some of these ballots in some states can't even be opened until Election Day. And if there's thousands of ballots, it's going to take time to do it. And by the way, our military, they've been voting by ballots since the end of the Civil War, in effect. And that's what's going to happen. Why was it not? Why is it for them somehow not fraudulent? It's the same process. It's honest. No one has established at all that there is fraud related to mail-in ballots, that somehow it's a fraudulent
Aircraft Sparky in the chat. There were 9 military absentee ballots in the wastebasket. They were all for Trump. All right. If you could, Sparky, could you please link me the source for that claim, as to for me to read myself as to how truthful that is or not? Link me the article on Discord DMs, please. Nah, he'll eat General Zo's chicken over in China. Not being serious, as Zach. Okay.
It's already been established. Take a look at Carolyn Maloney's race.
I asked you had an opportunity to respond.
Carolyn Maloney.
Go ahead.
They have no idea what
Vice
happened.
President Biden, go ahead.
He has no idea what he's talking about. Here's the deal. The fact is, I will accept it, and he will too. You know why? Because once the winner is declared, after all the ballots are counted, all the votes are counted, that'll be the end of it. That'll be the end of it. And if it's me, in fact, fine. If it's not me, I'll support the outcome. And I'll be a president not just for the Democrats. I'll be a president for Democrats and Republicans. And this guy,
I want to see an honest ballot.
I'm just looking at all the ridges and bumps in the right temple of Biden's head right there. It almost looks unnatural right there.
Gentlemen, you say that's the end of it? This is the end of this debate?
Honest ballot count.
We're going to leave it there. To be continued as in more debates as we go on. President Trump, Vice President Biden, it's been an interesting hour and a half. I want to thank you both for participating in the first of 3 debates that you have agreed to engage in. We want to thank Case Western Reserve University.
All right, that's the end of it, folks. I think the ending there is just a whole bunch of advertising and other crap like that. And oh boy, what a shit show that was. But nonetheless, I still was amused. I'm not gonna lie, I was amused at multiple points during this debate, watching them spit quips at each other. I mean, it was a clown show, but it was an interesting and entertaining clown show. There were times that I was frustrated, but there was also times that I was damn well amused. And nonetheless, I had fun. I had fun watching this. Aliens, says Zachary Colley. JK. I think he's referring to the ridges that I noticed that were in Biden's right temple. Total shit show, says Sparky. Good stream, man. Well, thanks, Sparky. I think generally speaking, the quality for the streams remain held up as the green screen is coming in well and all that. But nonetheless, I would like to thank everybody for joining in with me in watching this stream or watching this debate. And of course, there are at least 2 more presidential debates to go, and then there's 1 vice presidential debate. Either I will host my own streams for those 3 next debates as well, or maybe I'll join someone else's stream sometime in reviewing those debates. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. But I had fun. And yeah, cannot wait till the next time. Well, actually, then again, I can kind of wait because I still honestly, I suffer just a little bit of pre-stream anxiety, just generally speaking. But nonetheless, once I actually get started in a stream, the anxiety kind of subsides. Anyway, again, thank you all for watching this debate with me. It was fun. And what do I have to think about who won? I would have to say that I overall agree with Sparky that Trump somewhat edged out Biden. Like, Biden was, generally speaking, the more mannerly one between these two, as Trump was just constant with the interruptions. But on the other hand, Trump was slamming Biden on the substance side of things. Whether or not how truthful Trump was actually being within the debate, whether or not his claims actually hold water, is another issue that that people will have to review back on this debate in the future. But nonetheless, just with what was brought to the table between these two, I think that Trump outdid Biden in that area. And because substance is what matters over performance and how much of a show that you put on, what kind of a show that you put on, how mannerly you are, because that matters, because the former matters more than the latter, in that regards, overall, Trump did kind of win. He at least did a whole lot better than his first debate that he had with Hillary Clinton. And I would also like to thank Chris Wallace. Aside from the one part that kind of annoyed me when he gun mentioned in Kenosha and the Kenosha shooting, trying to say that supposedly that there was white supremacy involved with that, which I press X to doubt. I actually slam X to doubt on that point. Aside from that point, he did well as a moderator, trying to keep both of them in check. Although he was kind of failing, because how can one fully control Trump, really, unless they like literally physically put a muzzle on him? But Chris did his best. He was a fair moderator with what he had. He did a lot better than Lester Holt. Lester Holt. That was the name of the moderator for the first debate back in 2016 between Trump and Clinton. Chris Wallace did a whole lot better than Lester Holt as a moderator. Because even though I recall that Trump lost against Clinton in the first debate, I still remember as well that Lester Holt was still a biased and unfair moderator nonetheless. Chris Wallace was a horrible moderator. He did lose his professionalism. Agree to disagree, Sparky. But from what I saw right here, I thought that Chris did all right. Trying to keep in check with Trump and all of his interruptions, as he did do more of them. But nonetheless, I'll just leave it at that, folks. Right now, you have my opinion overall of the debate. Trump won the first debate. We'll see what the vice presidential debate and the next two presidential debates hold in store. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you all for tuning in. See y'all next time. Good night and God bless. I need to get some rest for work tomorrow.